Hello everyone, welcome to the video on JavaScript complete tutorial. And in this video, I've talked about some of the fundamentals like what is variable and what is data types, loop, control flow, iterative statements, objects, functions, arrays, and the asynchronous behavior of JavaScript, how to work with promises, and how to work with callbacks. Also, you would understand the object-oriented programming in JavaScript. You'll also understand the DOM manipulation with JavaScript. So you will see along the way, I have created some of the games and some of the apps in the video. So this is going to be a complete tutorial on JavaScript and you'll love along the way. Before we learn about JavaScript, what I'm going to talk to you about is what is a programming language? How does it work inside a computer? And how does it evaluate or how does it takes your command? Okay, generally it is tough to learn a programming language, but there is a catch. In every programming language, there are basics, fundamentals that I mean to say, and rules. So the fundamentals and rules are easy to learn. They're very easy to learn. At the same time, they are common across all the programming languages out there. So what do I mean by that? If you understand the fundamentals of a programming language, and if you understood some rules around the programming language, 80 to 90%, the rules and the fundamentals are going to be the same across every programming language in the world. Programming itself is tough, but not the fundamentals and not the rules. And if you learn these fundamentals rules, you can pretty much apply these things in any other programming language, not only JavaScript. The tricky part is that using these fundamentals or using these rules, you are required to write your own maze, like your own story. You need to write your own story with these fundamentals. That part is tough. On the early stages, this is how computer used to read the data. That is actually the information. So there are some dots, punch holes in the shape of 0, in the shape of 1, and it used to, roll through that, zeros and ones and punch holes. Okay, the entire information is stored in this bundle, and that used to get rolled into the computer. Computer used to understand the instructions given in that tape by rolling it, by understanding it, and there are numerous rooms of computer to do a simple math, a simple calculation, simple information storage. But is that the case now? No, right? Now, the analog way of storing information has digitized. Okay, the concept of memory came into existence. What happens with memory? You can store this information in the form of words, in the form of memory spaces within the computer itself. And to do that, we have this example here. Okay, let's not look into this guy, but let's understand this problem. Okay, what is the problem there? Find the sum of two numbers. So we might be doing the same thing here. We might give some number information here, some number information here, and ask a command like what is the result of that. But in the digital era, if there is a problem like this, find the sum of two numbers. What is the process? So this is the process. Okay, you start the program, you allow user to enter number 1, and then you allow user to enter number 2, and then you actually add number 1 and number 2 and store that value in another value called sum. Okay, so basically you take an input from, you start the program, you take an input from user and you store it in a place, a memory, and you again do the collection and place it in a memory. So num1 is collected, placed, num2 is collected and placed in the computer somewhere. Okay, and later I wanted to fetch them and do the some operation. So first I asked the user what is the number that you want to add, some 2 or 3 or 4 he entered. Then again, I asked what is the other number that you wanted to add, and 2 or 3 something is entered. And these two needs to be stored on a machine, because later you need to access them and add it and store the result in some other place. So you are actually creating some memory in the digital computer. Okay, in the memory you are creating some spaces. Okay, and you are if we are accessing by it a number, like first one will have some value, second one will have some value, third value you have some value, and print the last one. This is very tough. What you can do is you can take an input from user, put it in a location and name that location. Hey, let's call this number 1, and take in the second number and put it in a store in a place, and let's value number 2. And now whenever you say number 1, I need to go and fetch that number. Whenever user says number 2, I need to fetch the other number. Then I need to create another name and store the value of the do a arithmetic operation, and plus those numbers or add those numbers, store it in sum, which is actually created in another memory location. It's a simple operation, but if you talk about it, it looks as if it is same, it is that complex. And the same problem that is given in this chart. And let's try to write the program for the same. Okay, so I'm on a compiler which is outside. I'm going to use JavaScript. You don't necessarily need to know the JavaScript, because I'm going to do the same thing that I just spoke about here. So what I need to do, I need to ask the user for number 1, number 2, and add them and print the sum. That is my program operation. And let me write a program here. I'm writing in JavaScript. You necessarily doesn't need to know JavaScript because you're going to learn it. But for now, let me demo what is the programming. And it is even more better than these ones and zeros. You agree? That is what I wanted to prove. Okay. It is more graphical than this part. It is more meaningful. It is more manageable. It is more readable by a human. Okay, and you can change it. Okay, if you wanted to change something here, you tear it down, you remove that piece, you replace with new instruction. That's going to be very tough. But if you don't like it here, you can simply change the name. So that is the reason machine understands ones and zeros, and the information is segregated. Now with the digital era, you store it in different places. And when you store it in different places, you are naming them, and you need to refer them by name. You add by that names and store it in different. So to do all these things, somebody started with some program, somebody liked another program, somebody liked another program. So the evolution has given hundreds of programming languages. In fact, or other case, there could be thousands of programming languages created to simplify or to digitize the process of storing, updating, reading, or deleting that information on a computer. Okay, so let's move on. What was the problem we are solving? First, there's a number 1 created a space on the memory, and let's ask the user to enter a number. The user is going to enter a letter number 1, but what we are trying to do, we are actually trying to perform a calculation. So for that, I'm going to convert the number that he has given, enter the number he has given into an integer. Okay, and I'm again going to ask him number 2. Hey, what is the number 2? Okay, prompt. I'm prompting that user and saying enter a number again. And this time also, I need to treat it as a number. So to treat it as a number, you need to, so don't focus on the program that I'm writing, but focus on the process that I'm writing. Okay. Now I need to allocate some other memory and say sum is equals to number 1 plus number 2. That is the arithmetic operation that I'm doing. And finally, what I'm supposed to do? I'm supposed to print the sum and stop the program. That's great. Console.log. So this is a method in JavaScript which will actually log something in here. When you run the program, if you want to print something, you will use this method called console.log. Let me run this program. I hope. So the program is now asking me, if you're able to see now, the program now asking me to enter a number, which is a prompt that I configured. Okay. See how powerful is a programming language is. I just say 40 and enter a number again. I just say 50. The total is 90 and the program is stopped. It is a very rudimentary example of a programming language, a programming, because now in this entire process, what has happened? It has asked the user to give an input and it is stored in a place on RAM. Literally, a minute portion of the memory of the computer has allocated to this number, and there is another location allocated, the fraction or atom size of memory is allocated for number 1, number 2, and sum. And the computer itself performed that operation. In this program that you have written in plain English was converted to zeros and ones, and it was a long string that is given to the processor to do that calculation and return back the result. And the result was again taken out from that memory and printed here for you to see. So computer doesn't necessarily know the English. It is an interface for you to understand or for you to write in your own language the way you know, and machine itself is taking care about converting that English, plain English that you have written, and giving it to the hardware that you have on your laptop or desktop, and it is updating the memory locations, and your programming language is getting that value and displaying it to you or storing it in a specific language. Before we begin with JavaScript, let's try to understand what is JavaScript really is and why do we need to learn JavaScript. JavaScript is the most popular programming language in the world, and it wasn't the same case when it started back in 1997, originally to validate the input fields on the client side before sending it to the backend to reduce the load on server. And from there, JavaScript came a long way what it is really is, and thanks to the community support that JavaScript had, and thanks to the investment of companies like Facebook, Walmart, Google in JavaScript that made what it is today. There are many milestones by European Computer Manufacturing Association, that is ECMA, the maintaining organization of JavaScript, made a lot of updates along the way, and there were many releases, many versions of JavaScript. But today, JavaScript became the entry point programming language to become good paid or highly paid software developers in the industry. The average salary in India for a JavaScript developer is around 6 to 8 lakhs per annum, and in the US or European countries, maybe somewhere from $70,000 to $1,50,000. Long story short, if you know JavaScript, you can become front end engineer, back end engineer, or you can pretty much assume any role that is around the web. It's time to understand how JavaScript is working underneath. So, what are the important aspects of JavaScript? So, usually a programming language takes in some code, compiles it, and creates a compiled file and leaves away. So you will have the end output, you will have a file that can run on an environment. For example, in the case of Java, so Java will have Java compiler or build systems, which will actually create a JavaC file, and that is able to run maybe jar files that are able to run in JavaScript runtime environment, that is JRE. But In the case of JavaScript, JavaScript doesn't compile code, it just interprets the code or reads through the code and perform the commands that are in the code. So there is no compiler in the case of JavaScript, but an interpreter that runs through the code and performs those actions. So what are the components of JavaScript? JavaScript has a component called variable environment in it. So this variable environment will store all the code in key value pairs. So if there is a statement in JavaScript, the statement identifier will become the key of that object, and the value inside will be the property value, the key value. The other component of JavaScript is thread of execution. So thread of execution is nothing but it reads the code and creates a memory, and then JavaScript starts executing those created memory items in the same order that they were created. So this thread is responsible for executing all of the code that is out there. So JavaScript kind of prepares a stack of commands from your code and start executes them in the same order that they were created. And if at all there is a issue in the entire stack that is prepared, the entire stack will be failed and JavaScript will, and it cannot continue with the other elements in the same stack. So if you ever see that there is a stack error and at line number 3 the code is failed, and what happened to my 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, because they are in the same stack, JavaScript cannot continue, and that is logging an error and stopping executing the entire stack of the JavaScript commands. So you need to be aware of this particular thing. So why is this kind of behavior exists in JavaScript but not in other programming languages? JavaScript is a single threaded programming language. So what does that means? That means there is only one person that is taking care of the entire load coming in. That means if there is a big stack that is being prepared and the person is running through that stack and processing each command, if there is an error, this person is getting hesitated and throwing up the entire stack aside and going for a new stack of events to run. So that is what happening here in the single threaded programming language. It is time for our Hello World program. So let me create a folder called Hello World JS. And let me open the VS Code. I've explained that how do you install VS Code in Chrome in the previous videos. Please refer the video. So I'm opening up the VS Code. So now you can drag and drop the folder that you have created in VS Code so that it creates the workspace in VS Code. That's an easy tip. And now let's go and create our index.html here. So this is where we want you to write JavaScript, your first hello world program here. So we're going to use this index.html, and let's use the VS Code snippet help to create this document. Let's name it as hello world, and in the body we can write our JavaScript in script tag, because if you write anything out of the script tag, that will be considered as a body text, not as a JavaScript. So script tag is designated to hold the JavaScript and hand off to the V8 engine to run that script tag. So let's write our first program in the script tag. Alert. So let's use the bomb method to populate or to bring up a pop-up called hello world. And we already see the hello world alert in the browser. Let's click OK and go back, format our document. So this type of declaration is internal declaration using script tag. But we can separate our code to a JS file. So let me create a JavaScript file with the extension of app.js. So let's suppress this messages. First, let's comment this side. Yeah. Or else let's remove this script and come to app.js and write the same alert here. Hello world. And if we come back, nothing is happening because you created the file, but you have not attached the same file in body, just like the CSS we did it in the CSS sessions. So you separated out the content and you need to add it in your HTML. So there we go. We got our pop-up back. You might have observed the weirdness that I am writing this as end of the page before the body tag. There's a reason to it because the HTML runs line by line. That means it starts from top, like document type, then HTML head, meta, and then body, and finally comes to a script tag. It tries to load that file from the file system and give the code to the V8 engine. Let's say we have an image item and we are trying to access the image and update the source of that image using JavaScript. We will have that script right after that image so that it is executing right after the creation of dominant. If we have it in header tag, first it will load the JavaScript file and then the DOM tree will be prepared. Let's see this problem in action. Let me create a span with an ID of span and let's try to access this span using document object model in JavaScript. So I'm using getElementById by ID method that is available on document and the ID is span and I need to store it in a variable because to access it later. So don't worry, we're using a lot of keywords, we are using a lot of APIs here, but it all makes sense in the future. But for now, you look at the problem that I wanted to show you really. So var span lm is equals to document.getElementById span. So I'm selecting that element. And if I go back to the page before, we need to console that element so that we could see it in the developer menu or developer window or the console. So if I go back to browser and open up the console, I could see that span element. Really, there is nothing. I forgot to add some HTML. Let me add some HTML here. This is span and save it. I could see that. Now if I hover that, the element is being selected. So JavaScript is really able to select the DOM. So if I add it in the header, if I come back, the same script is unable to find the span because by the time JavaScript is loaded, the span element DOM is not ready because the browser is really going through each of these elements, and once the script is occurred, it is loading the file and it has already passed down the script to the V8 engine and then moved on with next set of DOM elements. By the time the script is executing, probably the span is not ready. That's the reason the selected statement is returning null. So you need this at the bottom. So once the DOM is prepared, browser has read through all the DOM. Now at the end the JavaScript is loading, so DOM is ready. Now I can access and work with the HTMLs. So that is the problem that you want to keep in mind. JavaScript, nothing but composition of different statements that are like this: variable statements or log statements or function statements like this. Okay, so JavaScript is collection of statements, different varieties of statements, and each statement should be separated by semicolon like this. Okay, if you separate them by semicolon, JavaScript understand that this is a separate statement and this is a separate statement. If you do not, JavaScript kind of gets confused that what is what. But if you do specify a semicolon, even if there is no space between them, JavaScript does consider that as this is a separate statement and this is a separate statement. If there is no semicolon, there's no way for JavaScript saying these two are separate statements. So
you need to JavaScript does not require you to keep semicolon everything. I think it's JavaScript still can run, and for that a particular example for that is this. So this particular line statement does in 3 lines, and it still doesn't have a semicolon at the end of the each line because it is one single statement. If you still save it and go back to your index.html, open it up, you will still see the statement executing. So if we go back to JavaScript, 3 plus 1 plus 2 is 6, and that's what we see here. So even though there is no semicolon and it is in different lines, the entire the entire para as understood as a single statement. So that's how JavaScript understands the statements. And how can you comment out a particular line in JavaScript? So what is a comment? So JavaScript comment is nothing but that you're asking or seeking the JavaScript to ignore this particular statement to run. So this is how you make a single line comment. And if the statement is in, or there are multiple statements that you wanted to comment like this, if you have multiple statements, you could use the expression called /star, and if you wanted it to stop somewhere, you will again say // so this expression will comment out multiple lines, and the / expression makes one single line commented out. And one other thing that you need to know about JavaScript is case sensitive. Let me prove you that. Variable Ganesh is equals to 50 or 500, and if I create another Ganesh where the first letter is capital, and if I log the capital Ganesh instance, I probably see 800 as a result. So let me go back to the browser and open the console, and I'm seeing 800 at the console statements. So even though both are Ganesh, just because the first letter is G capital, and if I'm logging it, the reference is actually going to this variable. Still, I did not put any comments here. JavaScript kind of understood that these are all different statements because there is a space and next statement is starting with another keyword. So it is understood. But if you format your document, the semicolons will actually be put in and you will not see any error. So it's kind of tricky to have or not to have the semicolon, but make it a habit that you put a semicolon at the end of each statement, and that saves a lot of time and issues.
You need to understand some of the basic rules and some of the basic fundamentals of JavaScript. And it is very easy to understand these fundamentals. And if you practiced well, or if you spent enough time on your fundamentals, it is going to be very easy to work with JavaScript. And it gets tricky as we go, it gets tough as we go, but you need to have this understanding built with a right set of knowledge. So we are going to understand what are different types of JavaScript and some operations that you could do with JavaScript, like some calculations or forming some sentences. And we'll also try to build a simple game using JavaScript in the browser so that you will understand how JavaScript world works in the world of front end. String is like a text or something like string, scribble, or the batch for anything, the string, something that you want to print on screen. Okay, numbers are actually stored and used for calculations. Booleans will always have two values, which is true or false, which will help to determine a statement, a state of a statement. Okay, I could say that, hey, 10 is greater than 10, and JavaScript is going to slap me in the face and say, hey, 10 is not greater than 10, it's a false statement. Or I could say that, hey, 8 is less than 10. Yes, of course, my dude, it is less than 10 and the statement is true. So always these evaluations are, the evaluations are going to be either true or false, and you're going to need those evaluation to write your program and make decision while you're running your code. Like your code will continue to run and you will change the flow of the code based on these boolean values. Undefined, which is actually a value that is given to something in JavaScript which is not defined. Like you want to something to be created, but you don't want any value to be assigned. The value in that place is going to be undefined. The state of that the container is going to be undefined, so that type is undefined. So null is also a type of JavaScript. You pre-fill this value to a container and you would try to assign the later. Along with that, we will understand what is a variable in JavaScript, which is not listed here, but you'll do understand. So let me go back and create a fresh document. Let's assume this is your browser window. Okay. And you're opening, so far you created your bio sites and you opened. So what's happening there? You hosted your information on some Netlify server. Okay. And the Netlify server is giving you some address like so.com. Okay. Some of you submitted it. So when I take this so.com and I enter it here, what's happening? This window is going and asking this Netlify server, hey, I want information about so.com. Hey, this guy written this HTML, take it. This is the request. This is the response. When the response has come to browser, this actually reaches. So I'm talking about, okay, I think this is getting way too of the hands. So what is happening? The response coming as a text and browser is actually leveraging on these three engines. When some HTML document is served as a response to this URL, the browser actually separating it out, the HTML part. So this is carrying what? It will carry HTML and it will carry, okay, HTML, it will carry CSS, you will write, it will carry JavaScript, but everything is in what? In the same document. You could write in different documents. We will learn them today. So what's happening here is that the HTML will actually get rendered first, and it will create some boxes there like this. First, the bare boxes, nothing like title or anything that you have written. The bare structure it will create, and the structure typically like this. Typically, it would be one below the other. That's it. Not even like this. And then CSS commands will given to CSS engine. Then CSS engine says, hey, your size is this much. Hey, you should be here on the left hand side, and you should be below this guy. You should be below this guy, and you should be below this guy, and you should occupy this much space. And finally, when JavaScript is given to JavaScript engine, engine will run through each line of the code that you have written, and on the go, if you click on this object, it will take user to some other page or something. So this is what happens in the browser. Okay, this is very, very important that you understood.
Pretty much any value in JavaScript is either of a type like string or number, or that we have seen so far. So though there is one odd behavior of in JavaScript, or I call it odd, and sometimes it is in many cases it is a blessing, in some cases it is not a blessing. So let's understand what it is. So we have seen the variable that is message is equals to hello. Okay, we know this is a string data type. A set of characters is a string, and the value of this particular message is now hello, and the type of this message variable is string. But on the next line I could go ahead and say message is equals to 50, and it is still legal. So in the first line we said message is equal to hello, and we said this is a string type. On the second line we created a we reassigned the value to 50, and now this has become a number type. Let's verify if I'm saying is right. Console.log. There is a way in JavaScript to verify the type of a particular variable, that is through the keyword of type of, and give a space and give the variable identifier or name, so that it will tell you, it will log the variable type. So now you see in the first instance it is string, and the second instance it is number. So this concept in JavaScript is called dynamic typing. Dynamic typing is useful in many cases and really pain in other cases. So the pros are like, developers doesn't have to worry about data types to be declared. So in many programming language, if you are creating a string, the syntax would be something like this: mystr, it is string, and is equals to new string, and the value goes in here. So this is the stuff that you usually see in other programming languages or something similar, but in JavaScript it is very simple, very straightforward. Next, let us understand the numbers. So let me create a number. So again and time and again I use var. Var is a outdated keyword to create variables. It is always let. So I'm still getting used to, because I used legacy JavaScript a lot, and out of habit I sometimes use var. But keep this disclaimer open that you always use let to create your variables in JavaScript. So I'm trying to create a variable that is my num. So in JavaScript you can create numbers are like this. That's it, just a number. The syntax is this. So there's no special type for floats or primitive integers or primary integers or any of that sort. There's no fuss in JavaScript. JavaScript, even if it is a decimal or it's a plain integer, it is just a number in JavaScript. And why do we need numbers in JavaScript? Is to do the mathematical operations like this. So I'm multiplying this variable 4500 with 3, so I get the calculated value logged here. So you can perform the calculation using number, but there is a catch around this. Mathematical operations in JavaScript are not safe, so developers are supposed to take care or make their calculations safer. For instance, if I use another string to multiply that, I get this nan, not a number type, logged in the console, because you are performing unsafe calculation, that you're trying to multiply a proper number with something that is not a number. But JavaScript still goes ahead and try to perform the action, does not throw an error, but the value is not a number. So you need to know this importance of having safeguard your calculations from this dynamic typing or from this kind of leakages. And next thing that we look at is the strings. We know we saw strings number of times in the past videos, but in this video let's try to extensively understand a string. So my string, a string. So when do you use a string? You might want to use string to express a particular statement on the UI, or log statements, or concatenations to dynamic to perform or to form a dynamic statement with placeholders. So let us see one example or one application of string, that is with concatenation. So basically, what is concatenation is that you can combine these two strings with an operator, plus operator, and those will be printed in console as a one value. So something like this. So we are not doing the mathematical operation, but we are combining two strings and logging it as one string. There's a better way of concatenating these strings, that is template literal, using template literal. So you use it like this. So this is my string value, and you can pretty much put a dollar sign and the curly braces, sorry. So this particular statement will concatenate this particular my string value in this statement. This expresses this value in the place of this expression, and what you see is a string is being printed. So let's see, this is coming from variable. So that's a big statement. This is my string value, this is coming from a variable. So this particular concept is called concatenation using strings. There is a lot to string. We will have a separate session on how to work with strings, but for now let us move on to the next topic of boolean is nothing but a variable that can store either a 0 or 1 being the truthy state expression, 0 being the falsy expression. Also it can store false and true. So where my bool is equals to false. So basically these variables are being used in control flow. Like if there is a flow of JavaScript, if you wanted to divert that flow from one direction to other direction, let's say if user is filled the information, allow him to send that request to server to login. If user did not enter a particular username or anything of that sort, get the type of that input, and if it is false, do not allow him to click the submit button. So all those kinds of control flows are kind of dependent on these expressions. So we can get these values true or false from different comparison statements as well. When we get to the topic, we will understand it deeper. And the next thing that I want you to understand is the begin types. In JavaScript, the numbers type cannot safely represent the integer values that is larger than 2 to the power of 53 minus 1. That's a big number. I don't know what is the number. Maybe I can have it on the screen so you can see. Calculations beyond this number is kind of number type beyond this number are not ensured with precision. So in that case, we are supposed to use big int. So big ints something like this, using but I'd never seen a particular use case for big int. So we can skip on to next thing, that is null type. So you can create a variable, sorry, I time and again I use this, let nullable is equals to null. Null is also a variable type. You can specifically put a value, assign a value, a null, and it still be null. And you can check if the if you can initiate a value with null, and always make sure, if you wanted to make sure that nothing is happened on that particular variable, you can still check, come back and check if the value is still null or not. Another type that is undefined, and if you haven't kind of assigned any value, the value in a variable is undefined. Undefined is also a type in JavaScript. When if you wanted to determine a certain type of a particular variable type, you can use this keyword, as we have seen the last example. You can log this statement, and you can still be able to see the type is undefined. If I put these back and nullable 1, for example, and if I use this statement again to just kind of see what is the type of this, the type of this is undefined. And here in the case of null, null is just not null type, it's an object type. So in JavaScript, pretty much everything is an object. Remember in the how it works chapter, we kind of discussed that in the JavaScript variable environment, every statement is a key value pair for JavaScript. So that means key value pair is considered as object in JavaScript. So even a null is an instance of a particular object type. And the next that I want you to understand is that console.log a type of a particular true statement. The statement true is boolean. So you can pretty much figure out or test the type or log the type of particular, know the type of particular variable with this keyword called type of. There are also other types that you might want to know, something like set or maps, symbols, but I never seen a particular use case to use those symbols or maps or sets in JavaScript, so I kind of want to skip those topics. If you still want to learn, I have attached a document below this video to reference those things and learn more about them. In the previous video, where we have seen the alert method took a string as an input and showed that prompt on the window, there are other classes that will convert the type of the particular variable or value in JavaScript. For example, if there is a value of string, and if you look for a type of that value, you will get this, that is boolean. But you can use the type converter or the class string class, so that you can convert it to string. Let's see that in action. String is the class, and for the class you'll need to send the value, and after conversion you need to check for the type of it, and as you can see, the type is now string. If you try to log the value there that has been returning, that is true. It's still true, but it is not the boolean type, but of a string type. So using this string class method converted this true value to a string true value. If I log this value too, you would understand the difference. So here you could see the true highlighted because the console has identified this as a value type of boolean, but after the conversion with this string class, you could see that it is being written in white and it is now treated as string. So same way you can convert a number to let's say let my num and if it is, let's say for example, this has been a input from our HTML fields like input or something, and now this the type of it is actually string, so that means it's a string 345, not a number 345. But if I try to convert that and log with the number class like this, and you could see the result in the console that now this has been identified as a number. The type conversion happens automatically in mathematical functions such as this. Let me log a mathematical operation like this. So I'm dividing 6 by 2, and if I save, you could see the answer logged in the console. So here in the mathematical operation, the types of strings are automatically being converted to number and the operation is being successful. Although you got to pay attention to one scenario where you try to convert a number that is not originally a number like this using the number class. If you try to converting a string that is actually not a number, the answer you're going to get is not a number. Lastly, if you try to convert a boolean, let's say something like this, I'm using the boolean constructor, I'm trying to convert 0, that is false, and I'm trying to convert the 1 to boolean, that is true. So another form of numerical representation of true and false is this. The falsy representation is 0 and the truthy representation is 1, and the same you could see the things. So if I have to compare like this, so there is a matching function, matching expression in the JavaScript, that is triple is equals to or double is equals to 0 and false, you would see that it is true. So let me identify it by a string that is beside. So you could see that 0 is equal to false. In the next few videos, we will focus on learning operators. So operators are nothing new to us. We know these from school ages, and addition, multiplication, subtraction, division. All these are instance of operators. Let's understand the terminology around operators. If you look at the example, that is 2 minus 3, that is on the screen. So 2 or 3 are called operands. That means on which two objects or on which two items the operator is being applied on. In some cases, we operate on one operand. At that time, the operators become unary operator, and if you are using two operands, that will be a binary operator. So let's look at these examples. So we already seen this example on the on the board, that is log 2 minus 3. We open the console. If I save the file, minus 1, do it like this, it will be plus 1. In some cases, we operate on one operand. At that time, the operators become unary operator, and if you are using two operands, that will be a binary operator. So let's look at these examples. So we already seen this example on the on the board, that is log 2 minus 3. We open the console. If I save the file, minus 1, because if I have to do it like this, it will be plus 1. So this is okay. And what is the example of unary? That means you can sometime apply the operator on one single operator as well. The example is this. So if I have a variable called x with a value of 1, and if I apply the unary operator on x like this, and I assign the value to the x, if you look at the value, so that will be 0. That is a classic example of mathematical operation, and this is a classic example of arithmetic operators. So what is a unary operator? So in this statement, if I wanted to negate the value x is equals to 1 to x is equals to minus 1, I can use the same division operator just beside the x and assign the value to the x. If I save this, you can see the plus 1 become minus 1. Let's look at few other arithmetic operators. So like 2 plus 3, we have seen the result, that is 5, or 2 modulus 5, that the remainder of 5, that is 0, and 2 to the power of 2 is, so 10 into 2, that is 20, and same goes with 5, 5 minus 2. The list goes on, like what each operator does, because we know what each operator does, and we used in many other applications, in many other various tools. So one thing that we need to understand is that if you want some calculation, let's say if there are two calculations in the same statements like this, okay, if there is a formula that we are executing, that let's say n into n plus 1 by 2, so that is a formula that I wanted to execute, so that I can get the number of, sum of total numbers until a particular number. Formula is n into n plus 1 by 2. So if I wanted to do the same in JavaScript, n into n plus 1 by 2, but this is not going to work, because should it actually plus these two things first and then multiply and then divide? So you need to give that precedence in order to get the calculation performed in a right manner. So what you can do is, if you wanted a calculation to take precedence, just separate the rest of the calculation by having two braces on both the sides, so that this calculation will be performed separately, and then finally if I have another bracket, and this will be performed separately, and the division will be applied on the whole calculation that is out there. If I save it, so n is actually not defined, so instead of n, let's a value that is 5. Okay, so in both the cases where there was n, I replaced with 5, we see 15, that is the value. So if we sum 1 plus 2 plus 3 plus 4 plus 5, we will get 15. So that's how you should understand, or that's how you should separate your calculations. And one more catch about the plus operator in arithmetic operators: when it is performed on the string of variables or string types, you would see a different behavior rather than combining them. So it would not throw an error. So let's say log Ganesh plus Kibble. So if I'm applying the plus between two strings, so the operation that the plus operator performs is the concatenation. So that means both operands will be clubbed together and will be returned a new string of these two different strings. That is called concatenation. And we have seen this form of we have seen the concatenation in previous videos in other forms. So that is I think we call it as interpolation, where I use the backtick syntax, template literal syntax or string literal syntax, and I have this statement like this: Ganesh is from India. Or I can just say like this, so an expression to print out a variable, that is country. So if my country value is kind of let country is, if it is India, I'll be from India, and if I replace it with the USA, it will be USA. So that is one catch about the plus operator in the arithmetic operators. Next set of operators are comparison operators, the operators that are equal to, or is it, I mean, the operands are kind of greater than one greater than the other, or one less than the other, or they are less than or equal to or greater than or equal to than the other. So let's look at these examples. Let me log a particular value, like say 3 comma 4 are the operands, and if I have to place, if I have to check for the equality, okay, what do I get? I get a false because this statement is wrong. 3 is never equal to 4. So what is the truthy statement here? Like 3 is less than 4. So I can replace this equal to operator with the less than operators and remove these things. So if I save it, this is a truthy statement because 3 is less than 4. Or if I say 3 is greater than, the order is important here because the first operand is greater than the second. That is a false statement. Now first operand is less than the second operand, and yeah, that is a truthy statement. So you can figure out, we can use these operators as per the need of the logic that you have. Like if I have placed a greater than or equal to sign, both of the case it is false. But if I say 4, it is definitely not greater than the 4 is never greater than 4. But since I already have an operator to check for the equality, like whether they're equal or not, we do get the true statement. And same goes with less than or equal to. So it can be less or it can be equal. So in this case it is true because it is equal. Let's understand the equality operator a bit better, because if I log this statement where 2 string 2 is equal to true, this shouldn't be the truthy statement because I'm comparing a string 2 with number statement. But to our surprise, we see the statement giving us the true, because this operator actually checks for the value. And if you are checking for the value, basically this is 2 and this is 2, it's not a strict comparison and it is returning true. So how do I make sure that I check for the type as well, like along with the value? You can use triple is equals to, and if you save it, now you see false. But if you wanted to make this statement true, you need to use the number true. Next are the assignment operator set. This operator set we are using for quite a while now, because when we are creating a variable, okay, we are using this operator of equal to assign a value to a variable, and that goes the same. But what are the rest of the other operators? Like you can use the arithmetic operators combo with the assignment operators, like x plus equal to 5. So each time I run this statement, okay, so a 5 is being added to the x. So if you could log that x value after 2-3 iterations, you could see that the number got increased to 20. We started up with 5 and we added 3 more 5s to it, and we see that the value being added up to 20. So, and you can pretty much use any arithmetic operator here in the place of plus, like this. So basically what's happening is, instead of saying x plus 5, that means take the previous value of x, add 5 and assign it to x, we're simply saying that just take this value on the right hand side and just do that operation of doing whatever you are supposed to do, and then assign the value. So yeah, you can use pretty much any arithmetic operators with a combination of these operators, like the assignment operators, and it will do the job. Next is the ternary operator. Ternary operator actually takes 3 operands, that is the condition and the operator itself, and then 2 different states for that particular condition to happen, that is true and false. So this is the typical ternary expression. So if the condition is true, the truthy side of the statement will get executed. If it is false, the condition is false, the false expression will be picked up. So let's look at an example. Let's say I just wanted to keep my x value greater than as a y value greater than x, and if I save this expression and if I log this, so let me comment these out so that we will see. Okay, if I log the x y value, you would see it is 6 because the x value is 5. This condition is false, and now false statement is being considered. Now if I actually make it to 20, okay, now this is the condition is being met to 20, like this is true, and the truth statement is being executed. Next, let us understand the logical operators that are and or operator. So the AND logical operator is works like this. So in this case, this expression is checking for both the statements to be true. So if I save this now, I see the whole expression become true. If one of these expressions have or false, the whole expression value become false. If I have another operator and that is also set to true, the whole statement is actually false because one of these three operands is false. So if all the operators are true, the entire statement becomes true. That is the AND operator or operator. Two expressions that it has a true, the whole statement will become true. If one of this becomes false, like let's make this statement false. So let's group these statements with braces. Even though this statement is false, the OR operator considers one of these operands to be true. So the entire set of this statement, this entire statement will become one operand to this operator, and this one become the other operand. So if either of it is true, the whole statement will become true. Let's try to understand this with an example. I have an office state variable. In this variable, I have to store either closed or open status. That should be derived from what is the current hour. So if it is the 9 a.m., it should be open, or if it is 4 p.m., it should be closed. So having that considered, let's write the logic. Log if the current hour is greater than 8, that's a truth statement because it is greater than 8. 16, okay, that is also true. So if we wanted to set the office status is closed, I should have this is as true because it should be before 8 it should be closed, after 4 p.m. In the afternoon should be closed. So let me write a logic there. So I'll use the ternary operator, keep this expression here. This expression either returns true or false based on the current hour. Now the office status is closed and false, that is open. Okay, it should be assigned to the office state variable. If I log office state variable, okay, it is closed because it is 17. Okay, if it is 16, the office is open. Okay, now even if it is 14 or 12 or 7, but if it is a weekend, it should be closed. So yeah, let's go ahead and add that condition too. Weekend is true. If it is weekend, again, it should not consider these two things. Even if it is 14th or 12 or 9, it should set it to closed state. That means again we have to use the OR operator. So that is weekend. Let us set it to 12. Ideally at this time on a weekday it is open. Since we have a weekend variable set to true, this is now closed.
Control flow. Okay, first thing that we want to learn in control flow is if condition. Okay, if condition. So generally when we say if condition, it's if condition is nothing but what if happens that, what if it happens this. So we need to know which direction we want to take based on a condition. So in the last session we have seen logic operators wherein it is returning. So this is the typical syntax of an if condition. A if
all in JavaScript, for each statement we have a keyword. The conditions, the keyword for if condition is if parentheses condition. So this is a true block. That means if keyword defines a condition, and the condition expression that we keep here, no matter what, like it doesn't matter what is the condition as of now, but uh, if the condition is set to return true statement, this particular block will be executed. What happens if the condition actually renders a false statement? So it doesn't return anything, it doesn't execute anything, it will just simply move on. But what if you need a false statement also, like if this condition is set to true, then it is fine. If this condition is returns false, then use the else keyword and you write the false statements here. So you might have statements, few of the set of statements for true, and you might have set of statements for false. So this is the kind of syntax, and this condition statement can be anything, like it can have 50 60 expressions there with logical operators or anything. But for now, let's see a similar example that we've seen in the past. So let's say, let r, what is the time now? It is like 8 a.m. and it is 8 o'clock in the morning. So how do I wish it? So if it is 8 o'clock in the morning, I would probably say good morning. So like I would, so my statement itself says, right, if it is 8 o'clock in the morning, say good morning. Okay. If our statement is greater than 8, okay, greater than 8 or equal to 8, not exactly, greater than 6, equal to or greater than 6, and then our equal to or less than 12. Sorry, that's the statement, right? Equal to or less than 12. We need to say document dot write. Using the write statement, you can write anything, pretty much anything on the website. So I'm using that. Okay, I want to write an HTML expression. Okay, yeah, this works good. But what if it is 16, like 4 o'clock in the evening? Okay, nothing, because you said if it is greater than 6, less than 12, that is fine. You asked us to, if this return statement returns true, in this case hour is 16, that is returning true. So what happens if I create make it 9 and save it and come back and execute? This is true. That means the truth is statement, this entire condition is evaluating as true, it is executing the statements. So you need else statement. Okay, so in else, I want to write, maybe if it is beyond 12, so I want to say good afternoon. Okay, so let me make it beyond 12, that is 13. It's returning good afternoon. But is it good even if I put 23 at 23rd hour? That means at 11 o'clock in the night, 23 is not a quite at hour 23, good afternoon is not a good statement to have. So what is the exact condition for afternoon? The hour should be greater than 12 and the hour should be less than or equal to 18. If both statements resolves true, then we will write good afternoon. You can write, you can convert this into else if condition, and you can have another expression. Okay, if this is true, this will run. So let's, now this is not truthy statement. Let's try to keep it 18. We get good afternoon. And what are we left with? We have left with 18 to rest of the things. So let's write we don't need another condition. This is where the optimization comes in. Okay, you already covered two other scenarios. What are we left with? We have left with good evening ones. Okay, anything that is not between 18 and 12 and between between 6 and 12 is an evening anyways, right? So you don't have to write another else if you can write and put it like this, but we don't see a need because the hours left here are the evenings only, so we can assume that is a default expression I'm using this. So like if I say 20, I get the good evening. Okay. Next, we are discussing the switch case. Sometimes we don't prefer using if cases because if there are many probabilities for one condition and that condition is going to be very long and very tedious with if else, so in that case we will use switch case. Let us understand the switch case with a different example. Let's say we have a role scenario. So for this role, I'm just assigning the value of guest. If a person comes to a website, there can be a possibility that he can be an admin, he can be an owner, or he can be somebody else. So in that case, we would like to give a proper message about what his privileges are on the website. So let's have those roles in the comments here. So if I take the switch case, so this is the typical syntax of a switch case. You will pass in the key. In my case, it is role. That means you are passing a value and you check that particular values equivalent to. If it is guest, okay, do this. Okay, here we're not checking about truthy statement, falsy statement, or anything. We just need simple comparison of value the expression. Okay, every time we don't need to write like if this needs to be written in the condition, like say guest, document dot write, you know h2 h2 sorry h2 might say you have a basic access. Okay, if I can add another case here saying like this, okay, case admin, you have a better managing access. If it is another condition, I'm writing another condition case. If it is super admin, okay, and okay, and you say, so here if I here I'm not comparing if the value is true, false, or anything. I'm not writing an expression. I'm just passing in a key and looking at that value, like if it is admin, okay, if I save it, say you have a better managing access. So if I have this role as a super admin, okay, my bad, super admin, you have all the access. Like if there is no super admin, there is no admin, and someone corrupted it and sent s admin, some hacker came into s admin, and you don't find that comparison case, the matching case, the default will execute. Okay, you would say, hey, don't mess with me. Simple. So anything that the value, anything that is not matching the cases, the last case it will fall on. Why do I have to break the thing is that once you got the desired case, like I need the case, there's no need of comparing the rest of the cases. So you need to have the break statement in. So break is a keyword to stop anything, any control. Like if you write in a case or for loop or anything, as soon as this word has occurred, as soon as this word is picked up by the interpreter, it will stop executing that particular block. Let me create some paragraphs. Okay, two files are span. So this was supposed to load, right? Okay, let's ask user like this randomly.
create some questions here like this. 3 6 are 3 6s are how much? 8s are how much? And 9 50s are how much? Maybe we are creating it for kids. So and we will ask the kids to enter a value here. Okay, where before the question. So what we will do? We'll create an input. We know the form values. If you type text, simple, you will enter the value here, but it is too long. Okay, max length. Max length how much? 2 3s or what? One number only, right? How can we do that? We will write some styles. Okay. In the head, in the style tag, we will say input. We'll say width 20 px. Good, nice. So now this is the tag selector, so it will have everything. So we'll ID Q1. The max length is anyways not helping. So why to have it? So I'm building the UI, guys. Remember, I'm building the UI for the game. I want you guys to do the build the game. Good. Now I can enter whatever I can. That's good. Great. It is only taking one number. So maybe I'll put it to 2 because sometimes the numbers are 2. So I just copy it the same HTML and add these 4 buttons. Okay. And this is question 2. This is question 3. We need an identifier, right? Question 4. Okay. Let's create some variables with answers. What is the answer for Q1? Let me create a variable called Q1. Okay, this Q1 and this Q1 are different, guys. This is a variable Q1 and this is a, maybe I can create it like this. QS1. The answer is 10. Otherwise, I'll say ANS1 is 10 because I need to, computer is going to evaluate the value. So I'll create answer 2. 3 6 are 18. And then 4 8s are answer 3. What? 4 8s are 32. Yeah. Answer 4 is what? 1 2 3 4
45.
45. That's great. Now we have our answers. Now what I want to do is, whenever I enter some number, I want to say this is wrong. Okay. Whenever I enter here and I will check, I'll put a button here. I'll say button what? Check on. Good. Nice. I'll click the check answers. Whenever I click, I need to pick the values and say that answer is wrong. So first I need to click right. So how can I do that? Okay. On click. Okay. So what I am doing is on click, you do something. So that when I click on this, the operation is not like one operation. There is like you go and get this value, compare it with answers. So some series of operations. So you write series of operations in JavaScript in functions. You created variables till now. Now you are creating a function. Function name is checking core. So function syntax is this. First, the function keyword and some dummy name for that function, and then this parenthesis, and you have this flower brackets open and closed. Function keyword, keyword function itself, like let and const function keyword, and name for your function, and then open parenthesis and close parenthesis, and like this. Don't ask me why it's like that. Someone did its Barsala and put that syntax there. I don't know why they have written it, but you will see those things, fitting in together in holistic view. So this is like a birthday function. Okay. You say this is a function. You come first. We'll cut the cake. We'll go. We'll eat. We'll say bye bye and go home. All these operations are inside one set, and we call together is what birthday function. Is the same thing. There are different operations that you can do, and all of them should be done in one way, one trigger. Like somebody clicks one button and all the functions should run together. Like I don't want to wait it. And also the score should not be checked even before I enter and click it. So I need to have some code here, but JavaScript should not run it on its own. So what happened in our last example? JavaScript running the game, running the code and giving the result then and there. It was not waiting, right? Here, JavaScript running and giving. How did I stop this script? There's no way I can stop this script. So if I continue to write the same script here, there's no way of controlling it. Now I want to control it. So if you ever want to control it, you write in function. So even if you make some mistake here, this is identified, but never getting complaint, until you do that, until you do the operation, until you call this function. Let's just say I say console.log. Hey, I am inside function. I'm inside function. I put a console log. In other case, I have a console log here. Irrespective whether I want it or not, it is already executing. Okay, but here in the game file, it is not executing because since you put inside these two braces, this is not supposed to run when JavaScript reads it. It will store this to execute multiple times. Okay, so if I copy this string, like how do you say that, hey, it is time you run these methods? So you by calling this function on the click, or you can call this here. Let's see in slow motion. Slow motion is very interesting short buddy for everyone, I know. Let's see it in slow motion. To put it in slow motion, what do we do? First we will go and we'll find the page game.html in sources and we will refresh this page. Now line by line, it is executed. Okay, all the lines. Here I'm this is from last file because not from this guy. So if you run like this, oh sorry, just a second, I called this function. Let me refresh. Line by line, I'm going and I read the function and it's done. It went to some other WebSocket that is inside the function, but I don't see the log here. But if I keep it inside, because it did not went inside, if I keep it inside and refresh the page, now if I ask it to go in slow motion, you could see it is directly jumped here because it is reading it but not executing it, because this is a function. It will read but not execute. But if you see this expression like function and parenthesis, this means you are calling that function. When you're calling that function, then it will go inside and then it will run. Then I'll see that log inside my console. That is a function. Until you see this expression, it won't run. But if I put it here, it is only running once. You could see it is only running in once and not running. But when I want this to check, when I see the on click event, on click, no words capital or small, equal to string expression. In the string expressions, hey, this is the function that you should call. Now if I click as many times as I want, the same function will execute 20 different times if I click 20-30 times. Very good. Nice sticky thing. Very nice. Now I can check the values that he entered here. If I enter here, I can check here. Hey, I'm coming here, but you know why? I need this element value. These element values should come inside this function. How can you do that? This is in HTML. This is in JavaScript. Remember that nice little guy we talked about, the document? We have 9 minutes and we are going to finish in 9 minutes. Don't worry. Remember the small guy that we are just talking about, the document. Document is like a black box which is storing this entire document. Okay. Looks is like a small. It's like our, Diwali crackers. It looks small but makes a lot of noise like that. It is very small, but this entire element hierarchy is accessible through this document. So how to go inside this document? When you put a dot, it will actually open up that box. In this box, what do I first need is get element by an ID. Get element by ID. So that is this. And I want you to get an element by ID. So this is a function inside dev, just like this function. JavaScript is also loaded with some other function to help us. So wherever there is Q1, you get me this element to here. And do one thing, let Q1 value is equals to document get element by ID. Let me log this guy. Let me console.log. Whenever I click this button, this function will execute and this function will in turn create a variable. Inside code will create a variable and in that variable it will store this element reference. So if I click it, it is giving me that element. See, element is being logged. That means inside this variable there is element. But what do I do with this element? I can't do anything with this element. What do I need? I need the value inside it. Value. I made a spelling mistake. Value. I put a value there. Now if I click empty value, but if I put two letters, 22, but 30, 44, 52. Okay, I'm getting values. Good. User entered something and I'm getting it. And compare it with equal to. Whether the Q1 equal to answer. This is comparison. This is called operator in JavaScript. What it is called? Operator. So an operator can have both LHS and right HS and it will check for the equality. This is the equality operator. Equal to me. Equal to means it will, but this is not double is equals to means it is an operator. It will check the equality of LHS versus RHS, left hand side value and right hand side value. So answer is what? 10. If I enter 11, what is it? False. The answer is false. But if I enter 10, the answer is true. Very nice. The problem is solved. So whenever they're true, I can say that your Q1 is good. So if this exception is true, I need to put an alert. If it is false, I need to say it is false. Your answer is false. Your answer is true. I need to say that. How can I say that? There are true, let's just say that, hey, 33 false. Hey, what is this false? Hey, what is this true? So I can simply say your Q1 answer is false. If you do 10, your Q1 answer is true. Repeat this 4 other times. But what is the challenge? You're only creating all the Q1 values. What you should do? You should Q2 value, Q3 value, Q3 value, Q4, sorry. Your Q4 answer, Q3 answer, and Q2 answer. Not just that, you need to change here and here. You need to change here, Q3 to answer 3, Q4 to answer 4. If I come back, all your answers are false. And I can do one simple thing. Okay. I can give score. Let score is equals to 0. Initially, when the function is starting, the score is 0. If you're putting like this, there's no point. You tell me the false. There's no point in it. So there is a simple ternary operator. There is a condition that you could introduce here. Like if each good answer will increase your score by 1, each bad answer will decrease your score by 1. This is the operation I want to do. Simply, can I extend to couple of more minutes and talk about this logic? It will be very important.
Yes, sir.
Okay, great. So
Please do, sir.
Yeah, in JavaScript, thank you. In JavaScript, you can break the way that JavaScript execute. Like if you are, taking some orders in the childhood, we used to play, right? We throw the pipe in the garden and we just take a stick and draw a line for the water wherever you want that water will follow in the line. So that's a favorite game for everyone. We can play the same game here. Okay, we can simply write in plain English if the expression value is true, equal to true. You can say like this: if this entire expression value is to true, set to true, then this is a branching. We say this is branching. Now branch out and go into the truthy statement and increase the score. How can you increase the score? Score plus plus. So plus plus operator does what? It will increase the number, whatever the number it is. If it is 1, it with this statement will make it to 2. If it is 2, if it is 3, it will make 4. So now it is 0. So first answer will make it what? If it is correct, it will make 1. It will increase the score by 1. Or you cannot give it all like this. So this is very simplified version. If this statement is true, you can say, you can put this inside. Your Q1 answer is, you cannot really say, you don't need to give the every answer. Okay. If this and this are not equal to, this will not go inside this, but it will go to if and else. Else what we will do? We will simply minus this. So if the score was 0 and he messed up in the first question, the score will go minus 1. In the second option, we will get what? He will get right again. And what happens? It will become 0. So overall score is 0. Like that, we will complicate this. Remember what I said? Learning the rules and fundamentals is very easy, but you create your own maze and make things complex while solving the problem. That's the tricky part. If you know the fundamentals, it is very easy. But you create your own maze and make it complicated. So that's when you see the complexity in learning programming. So always keep your mind clean so that your code looks clean. Okay, do the same thing for all the 4. I don't do any of these. Okay, or Q1 value instead of Q1, same condition. And again, after getting this Q3 value, we'll say Q, and we'll do it one last time for Q4 and with answer 4. Great. All these lines are, if one's unanswered is score, it will increase 1 or it will decrease 1. And then it will check this and it will increase here, it will decrease here. Based on the true, if this is true, 1 increases. If it is false, 1 decreases. Like this. Finally, you can click here and see where the function started and where the function ended. This is where the function ended. It highlights. You cannot go ahead and write it here. So there are so many lines of code. Now the confusion is, hey, where is the last part of my function? This is the last part of my function, just before the function expression. Now here I will say what? Finally, instead of putting so many console logs, now this time Ray, this your answer is now. This is your exam sheet results. You
Score
are,
has to get
yeah,
printed, is that it, sir?
yeah, total. Yes, exactly. You are right. I didn't know. I didn't catch who spoke, but your total score is score. That's the value. I want to just print this value. So your total score is 0 because you did not. Is it? It should be -5, right? I think I messed up somewhere. 11. Check the answer. 0. I know. I know. I will make some mistake and do it. And total is, why score is always plus plus. Should I not do this? Unexpected number. What happened? Oh, sorry. Core itself is gone. Oh yeah. So what I was saying, I was saying score equal to score equal to. You should not do that. Score minus minus, score plus plus. It is more, even more simpler. So yours -4. 4 times wrong answer. Let me do it one time. Correct. minus 2. 2. Oh, sorry. This is minusing, right? So you can give all of them right. You get 4 score. What? 18, 32, 45. Oh, sorry. You should refresh first because you checked your answers once and then score is something and then I'm doing it again. So 10, 18, 32, 45. Check answers. Total is 22. What happened? 4 is minus answer 3 somewhere.
Is it like truly needed to decrement?
Because I thought if every wrong answer should give him in that case, somewhere what's happening? It should skip all the things, it should keep increasing it. I messed up somewhere. You 3, answer 3. So I said I'm already made it complicated myself, for
Sir,
me.
hello.
Yeah.
Sir,
Oh yeah, I got it. I read it. Yeah, I messed up. This is what. See, experienced people also will get confused. So you should practice a lot. I copied it and pasted many other times, and I forgot to change because it's always picking Q1 value in everything. So it was a kind of doing that. So it should first Q1 it should get from this and then this. It was always comparing this value to all of these answers. Then now fingers crossed. 4 8s are 32. 8s are 45. Oh yeah, good. 4. Let me try to refresh and just give 18. Sorry, and 18 and 32 and 45. Your total is score because you made one mistake. It's got reduced by 1. Somehow you get the point. Okay. Nice. You code your thing, your view is created, your logic is built, you write your own maze, you printed your result, and you saw a nice little interaction here. And let's see it in a big screen now. Isn't it awesome? We have different iterative statements in JavaScript, that is for, while, do while. So again, all these do the same job. Okay, I think for and while you will do the exact same job, but there is a difference between these two things. And also we have foreign, and these are all the iterative statements that we're going to learn today. So for the syntax of for is this. So let me do that. Why do we use for? Okay, so I want to write a statement. I want to log a particular a table. Okay, I want to do a calculation, and in console I'm just writing to it. So let's say we have a table that needs to be written 2 into 2. Now I need an expression 2 into 1. 2 ones are 2. Okay, 2 twos are, the string is, I am doing a concatenation. 2 twos are 3. Sorry, 2 twos. Okay, so like this I can write the entire table. Okay, as you could see, I'm repeating the same statement again and again. So if I'm doing it 10 times, okay, until 10th line or something, I'm just keep repeating the same. There is a better way of doing this in JavaScript, that is using the iterative statements. So how do I how do I create an iterative statement is, you need to use the for keyword for this for iterative statements, and you need 3 things to for any iterative statement. You need 3 things. What is, you need to initialize an expression, init expression, then semicolon, not infinity got it. Okay, init, and then condition. When do you want me to stop? Like, from where I should start, where I should stop, and
how should I increase? How should I take? One step at a time, two step at a time, three step at a time, four steps at a time. You can control it. So init, okay, condition and increment. Okay, increment, decrement, or anything of that sort. And then the set of statement that you want to run, the 2 or 3 or 4 or 10 statement that you want to run each iteration. Like, so let's see, for example, let I equal to 0. This is initialization. Okay. And what is the condition? Till when you want me to run this statement? So I just want you to run, equal to 10. So I just want you to run 10 times. Okay. And how do we want to move ahead? One step at a time. So plus plus, the unary operator plus plus will increase the number by 1 if you add plus plus at the end of that particular statement. So this is similarly like this. Similar to this, let I equal to 0. Okay. If I is less than 10, it will return true or false. Okay. If you keep it like this, it will increase by one number. So let's see the same statement. Okay. If I uncomment it, I'm getting this printed 11 times. Okay. Because I started from 0. Okay. 0 is also being considered as one iteration. So I don't need it to go for 11 times. I need it for 10 times. Okay. 1 to 10, until. So I equal to 1, it went and executed this statement and come back. It increased the I to 2 and then executed the statement. And before executing it, compared 2 is less than 10. Yes, that is true. And then increased 1, condition satisfies, comes in, again 10, again until 10, it will execute, increase the I. When it is 11, I is 11, when it is matching this condition, it doesn't match, and that's when it break. So it is logged it 10 times. And I am logging the same statement 10 times, but now I can make a difference. I can make a difference here. Okay. How? So I'm actually trying to say 2 ones are 2 all the 10 times, but I can make it interactive like this. Okay. Since I is a variable, I can log it. I can concatenate that in the string. And each time when I'm actually, multiplying, in the place of 1, I can use the I like this. Now I log it. 2 ones are 2, 2 twos are 2, 2 twos are 4. You would see the entire table. Okay. And I can pretty much increase this number, this condition, and I get the entire table printed out. So, iterative statements are so powerful that you just need to figure out a way to define the template, and then it will build up like this. Okay. You can write the same syntax in while loop as well. Okay. While, okay. Here it is the condition. The condition is I. What is the condition? I less than or equal to. Okay. So this time let's try to understand. Let's try to find, the odd numbers between 1 to 10. So I need the odd numbers between 1 to 10. Okay. Now I need to get the odd numbers of 1 to 10, so that I can do a calculation. Like I might be trying to find a Fibonacci in a series or whatever it is. So I want to find odd numbers in 1 to 10. Okay. So you use let I equal to 0. Okay. This time the initialization is not on the block. So this I in for loop is not accessible beyond the for loop. Always remember, if you define a keyword, we learned in the variable session. So this particular, if you use let keyword, that is only limited to that particular block. Okay. Beyond this for loop, the I statement is invalid. So let me give you that example. Okay. In this example, I'm using I and I'm able to refer the I here. But what happens if I console log the I outside of for loop? Okay. I'm getting that I is not defined because the I is only available within this block statement, for loop statement. Beyond the statement, out of that, I has no value defined. But in the while loop case, okay, you need to define the value outside of the case so that you can use it outside also. Okay, that's the only fundamental difference. So you get the, sorry, let me comment this out. This is already coming in log. Oh, I already messed up. I created already a for loop again. So I should have comment this. Already created my infinite loop. So I should be more careful of executing the things these times. Okay. So I need to kill the browser. Okay. This time around I didn't created the infinite loop. Okay. So now this is so you define I here. You will be able to access throughout your document, but you will write this for loop. Okay, I is less than I plus plus. Okay, so you have your condition here. You have your increment here. Between your condition increment, you write your logic. So if the I is divisible, okay, divisible by 2, that means if it is divisible and the value is 0, if the value is 0, that is a even number, right? So what are even numbers? You can divide by 2 and you will get the remainder to 0. If it is an odd number, you can divide it by 2, but you will have always you have a reminder there in the print. That's the formula, right? Sorry, even number and odd numbers. So if I is 2 and 2 by 2, it's just 0. So nothing will reminder. 2 ones are, 2 by 2, you'll get the 0 as a reminder. So that is not a, prime number. That is, sorry, even number. That is a odd number. Sorry, that's not an odd number. That is an even number. So I need a condition that I divisible by 2, but the remainder should be not 0. That is odd number. Okay. If I save it, I'm logging the I, right? So actually it is 10. I logged I, so it is increased. So I just have this statement for a reason. If I define it 20, it will goes up to 20. It will write all the 20. Okay. So this statement at line number 24 executed only after line number 20 got executed 20 times. Okay, so now as soon as it is 21, the I plus plus executed to 21, this condition was not satisfying and it skipped and came here. That's why you don't see the 21st evaluation done in the loop. The only difference between for and this is you have your initialization at a block level, but in using while you have the initialization at the global level. Like you can use the I outside of the function if it is needed. Like how many times the loop has run, you can get that variable. You can get that number. You can reference the number throughout your application if you need be. So that's the kind of benefit you get. There is another loop, which is equivalent to do while loop. That is do while. Okay. Do this. Do the same job. Okay. And increase the I each time and then until this, and you need I. Okay. You get the same thing. You get the same job, but the only difference between while for do while is even if the condition is false, like say the condition is I20, right? Let me define it 20. Okay. It will at least try to run one time. Even if the condition is already meeting, it will at least run one time. So that's the difference between while and in the while case, it will not run the first time. The condition will fail in the first case and it will not even come inside. So foreign is kind of made for objects. So unlike for while do, foreign is a different loop that is designed to run for enumerable objects. So what is an enumerable object is that an object that is created with literal is an enumerable object. So unless you said that this object is not for enumerable types of jobs, so then only it is not eligible to write for the foreign loops. So what do I mean by that? Okay, so we have an object, we have a let student name locality So all these are related objects. So how do we define this into related objects? So we create objects, let student object, and we create a literal and student name. Maybe we, since it is already part of student, we can simply say name. Okay, dash. So it's much neat. Locality. Okay, and status learning. Okay, not awarded, still learning. Okay, I have this object. So foreign statements are, designed to iterate through these guys. So instead of having an initialization, increment, and condition, so the increment, iteration, and everything is predefined on this object. How many times it should run? I should, let's say, for key in students. Again, it might get confused, guys. Console.log. You need to see this key, and if I save it, what do I get in the console? The statement is running for 3 times, okay, but each time the difference is the key of this particular object. Okay, name, locality, and status, those are the keys of this particular object. So this can be anything, you know this can be any variable. So you can call it para, you can call it p, you can define any name, you can give it any name you want. The thing is that the key as a value coming into this p and running that iteration. So the condition is, is like this until this object reaches an end, and each time you take this key. So why do I need this kind of loop? Is that to, if you wanted to access everything, how can we access an object with dot notation, right? Okay, dot key, this is how we access, right? But what happens here, it is undefined because there is no value called key in this object. Okay, but there is a value inside the key. I need to use the expression of the key, but I can do it like this. So with square notation, I can use these things, and I get that 3 times. So this loop will run 3 times. I'm using the expression, bracket notation. I'm using the bracket notation to get that particular, value out of things. So each time I already have this, key, each time being stored in key. So instead of using a static one, I can use this. So now I'm getting others the value simply. With key, the evolution is always keys, status, locality, and name. And with the bracket notation on the student object, with bracket notation, we can use the key. So this way, I'm using the key as an expression to this. So usually you should access an object with this, by this way. You can either access student.name, okay, or you can log. These are the two notations that we saw it in the reference types lesson. If you recall, if you run through with the things, you can recall, you can either access this way or this way. But in this example, you cannot say key here because there is no value called key in this one. So this statement will not work in this loop if you are able to access. And this will also not work because it's always logging the value name. Okay. But each time the key is being stored in the name of this key is being stored on the key, so that I can use this key. The key value will become name, locality, status on the each iteration. I'm able to get the object here. So is this clear, or any confusion there, or anything that you did not understood? How I was able to return the value so that I can, yeah. So I'm just writing it. So each time the key is changing, name, locality, status, I'm just using that value expression of student and getting that values as well. So if you're simply run through an object and check something, you can use this for in loop. So for off is also a similar and most similar kind of thing, but you can do it on arrays. Okay. So let's say I have an array list of students, okay, like one comma maybe, let's, okay, I have 4 students, okay, I number them as 4, okay. For, let me comment this guy so that my console will be clear. Okay, I have a problem. Okay, for of, I need to run this on this object. Okay, each time I get it, what? Index. Index, if I log 1 2 3 4, because I have 4, not the 1 2 3 of this, not this 1 2 3, but the index 1 2 3. So the values are logging in, but not the values. So 1 2 3. So why do I do that? Like if I log this, okay, you could see, but the keys are not in our hand. Like keys are not customizable. They are kind of defined in order. Okay, so you get that particular value out of the particular thing. So functions in JavaScript help you to execute the code time and again whenever you need it, so that you will get the benefit of reusing the same code in a number of times that you want. And functions gives you a flexibility to run a code whenever you want, because till this point you have seen me writing coding, and as soon as I refresh the window I used to see my result, and I have no control whatsoever on the execution of code. But with functions, that is going to change. Now let me create a simple fun function expression. So my fun and console.log. In the previous cases, as soon as I saved this file, I used to see the log because there was a console statement. But in this case, I don't see the log here, even though I have the log statement defined inside the function. The reason is that you will define a function first and then you will trigger. So remember, as I said, you will define once and use it again. That means if you have declared a function statements, you should have a control or trigger given it to you, and with that trigger you will be able to call this function. So you need to understand that you made a gun and you have given a trigger, or you made a bomb, you're given a trigger. Now what is the trigger for the function? Then you need to copy this expression and keep it here. Now as soon as this trigger is placed, now this function is running and I see the logs in the console. So if you want to see that behavior, you can go to the sources and put a breakpoint over here. Before I go there, let me add a few more function triggers to that. Okay, as you could see, as soon as I saved, the execution or the interpreter stopped at the function expression. Now the function is triggered. Going inside the function, there's a log statement execution. Now I see the log, come back to the sources, go to the next line, see what's happening. It's going inside the function again and again. As soon as the function is completed, it is going to the next line of this function. So it's not moving inside. It's actually, whenever there's a function occurred, it is going inside the function, executing, and then moving on to the next statement. So finally, you will have 4 logs because I've called this 4 statements. So you just need to understand this execution flow of function. Another awesome thing about functions is they are configurable with the parameters. Like you build a machine, like you built a factory, and you put some parameters so that it could produce 1 kg bar, half kg, 200 and 100 kg bars, because you would not set up different factories for different types of products, right? You would have one factory and you will change certain parameters, like I need a bar of 200 grams, and you will get the entire output configured towards 200 grams. And then if you need 100 gram, you will have 100 grams bars producing. So let's illustrate the scenario. Function, okay, produce soaps is the function. Okay, each function can return a particular value. What do I mean by that? So let me give you an example. Okay, this is a function with no statements in it, and if I console log this statement, because if I console log a variable, I always find the variable logged in my console. But if I log this function, what will happen? What will be the result? I'm getting an undefined result. That means this function is executing, but there is no value stored in the function. It is just an undefined function. That there's no instead of stored I should have said like there's nothing coming out of function. So you can make that result, you can set that parameter or set that value for that function with a return keyword. So you need to use this keyword called return, and whatever you set inside the function like this, the statement value will be that. So and the function expression will be stopped from let me add two return statements. Okay, the next return statement, let's say Ramesh. Okay, ideally you would imagine the last line should be the line that should be executing, but the case is that as soon as a first return statement occurs for the function, so rest of the code will not be considered for execution. So you need to remember that if you ever need to stop a function execution, you just need to set this return statement occur, and then it will not, the rest of the code will not be reachable for that function. Okay, so let's produce the soaps first. Soap. Okay, if I save it, there's a soap coming up, and 2 3 4 5 times I get 1 2 3 4 soaps with 4 different expressions that are coming up, and these soaps are not really configurable. How can I make this soaps configurable? So I can say weight. So maybe if I pass in the weight, soap with the weight in grams, grams. So now this weight is undefined because I haven't set anywhere weight is equals to or something like that, because of that this weight is undefined. But I can set this weight parameter to something whenever I'm executing the function. So you can now send in some value that will become a weight value, so that this statement will make more sense. So I can say 200 grams. Okay, now the first execution statement, I passed 200. Now this weight parameter got replaced with this 200. In the first iteration, I got a bar with 200 grams. And next time I can set 500. I'll get that statement returning, the 500 grams bar. You can go on 1000 grams or 100 grams. So in this case, I'm using the same function for different sizes, different units of the product. So not that you only need to send one parameter, you can send any parameters you want. Maybe we can pass in the flavor. I can use that flavor parameter here. Okay, so I'm doing the concatenation. So I'll concatenate a string and produce a bar with flavor. Okay, with flavor of undefined, because nobody is sending the second param, no expression is sending the second param. Maybe I can send a jasmine here. The first statement becomes jasmine, and it goes on. But rest of the things are producing undefined, but that shouldn't be the case. If I'm not sending anything, there should be a default value set to. If you need that kind of functionality, you can set the variable value to default, something like this. Maybe I need a lavender as a default. Maybe I spelled it wrong, but yeah, that's I don't know how lavender spelled. Yeah. So if you send this preference of this particular parameter, it will set to that expression like this. In the first line, I set to jasmine, I got the jasmine flavor. But if I did not send, the default value has been picked up, and rest of the things have actually returned soaps with lavender flavor. So functions are very configurable, moldable, and you need to understand the concept of parameters best, I need to understand the configuration best and the return statement, then we can get the most out of the function statements. The other reference type is arrays. So arrays are simple list with index, like you know, uh, a simple train with all the numbered bogies. So you can have variables or primary types or objects stored in them. Like in the last example, we looked at an object where you can store variables or related information in key value pairs. But with arrays, you can store number of objects like this. So object 1, object 2. There is no restriction to store only one particular type of information in arrays, especially in JavaScript. So you can store pretty much any reference type or any primary type on the arrays, but each of the value in arrays are actually stored in indexed positions. So let me show you how an array looks like. Let me comment out this object. So console.log, yeah, this is the array literal syntax. And if I log arrays, if I see there's nothing in it, it's empty. Now if I go back and place some value, v1 and v2, we could see the items stored in array, and they were given a particular index. In objects case, we see the key here instead of number, but here we are not supposed to have any key, but each value will have its own key that is numbered and or indexed inside arrays. So you can have an object like this. So if I go back and just uncomment my person object and take the name, and if I refer it in this position here, okay, so let me delete this. If I save it, so in the first position I have an object. So in this object is again having an object, and that object will again have an array. This can go on to nth level. The structure itself is called JSON in JavaScript, and that is only possible through the combination of arrays and objects. So our focus is to understand arrays, so we will park the object for a second. We already discussed that. So to be able to access the individual each array items, you will be able to access by the index name, and array indexes are starting from 0, not from 1. Okay, but the length is 2. You need to remember this. The position starts from 0, so that the last position of his array is 1, but the length of the array is 2 because there are 2 items in the array. So let's try to look at or try to access a particular variable in array. So if you want this particular object to be accessed, now you can say arrays of 0. Now I get the first value, that is person object here. So let's park this person object for a while. Now in array I have only 2 simple strings, and if I access the first variable or the first position, I got person object. If I say 1, v2, and if I put 3, this should give me undefined because I haven't stored anything on this position of 3. So if I have a position of 3, now I can access the correct variable that is stored in position 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. So you can also replace the value with the same index like this. You can put an equal to and say new pos, new position. If I log the same, I get the new pos instead of pos, because I have stored here in the first 14th line I have stored pos 3, but later I replaced it with new position, and I got that new position log in the console. Also, there are many methods that comes that are that are bundled with arrays. We will deep dive into these individual methods in a different lesson where we talk about arrays in depth. If you want to know how many items that are in there in the array, you can access this property So now the length is 4, but the last position of the array is 3, 0, 1, 2, 3. In few previous videos, we looked at the primary types in JavaScript. From this video onwards, we will look at some of the reference types in JavaScript. Primary types are, not something mutatable or changeable, but whereas the reference types are combination of primary types and they can be changed. And first type of that reference type is objects. Objects is nothing but a set of related values, such as this. All these variables are indicating one person, but there's no way that we could group these things using variables. But in the case of objects, we can have these entire information in a key value pairs. So let's look at how do we create objects in JavaScript. Person object. Now this time we are not saying person name, occupation, nationality, but we are saying person object. And you can create an object in JavaScript with an object literal syntax. So this is an object literal syntax. You just can open these two curly braces and this will become an object. Let's check if that is true. So let's log the type of the person object. As you can see, this is an object. This is already created. What is an object? Everything that you see around you is an object, like a pen, a book, or a laptop. So it has all the properties like the width, height, color, and everything. So if you compare that with the JavaScript object, we will have certain properties like you know person name, and this will become a key for that object, and the name value. So this is the key and this is the value, and enter information into the object. Now with objects, I don't have to have this many variables, but rather one variable is actually containing all the information about this particular person. Now the question arises, how to access this variable? I can log this variable. I can see this entire variable in the console that I stored. Person name as the key and person name as the key and Ganesh as the value. I can access the object with this keys. Like I can say I can put a dot, and as soon as I put a dot, the IntelliSense is suggesting me the defined keys on it. And if I can select that particular key, I can log that particular value of that particular key. Okay, this is a dot notation. If there is an object inside a key, okay, like this, pin 1, 1, 2, 3, pin 2, 4, 5, 6. Try to access the person pin. I see again an object with two key value pairs. If you wanted to access one of these, you can say pin 2 or pin 1. There you go. So you will traverse through the objects with dot notation and able to find what you're looking for. There's another way access these keys, that is bracket notation or braces, and you give the key as the string. You pass in the key as a string, and you'll be able to retrieve the value that you're looking for. But the most used application, most preferred way of accessing object values is dot notation. And also you can reassign the variables in the same dot notation like this. So if you did wanted to change person dot name, it is not Ganesh, it's Ramesh. You can save it and you can access and see if it is really changed. In the first instance, if it was this, and then I changed the name to Ramesh. Now when I try to access, it is Ramesh. You can see, like this. Here it was before changing it is Ganesh, and after changing this, it is Ramesh. So you can use this dot notation to replace the values too. So let's understand, the reference types better. Okay, this is an object, and this object is static. Okay, it's not dynamic. At a given point of time, how many times I run this object, I only get objects. Okay, the same object, right? What happens if I need another student object? So I copy this guy, entire statement, and say student 2, okay, then Krishna, okay. Name changes, but he is also batch from, he is also learning, and if I need one, okay, I need Sanjeev. So I'm repeating myself stupidly a lot of times. So it's not a good way to create objects in Java, in any other programming language. So I repeated as a programmer a lot of times. Okay, the purpose serves, but the number of lines, the load on the system, everything is, there's a better way of doing it. So generating, objects via a factory method. Okay, you can define a factory method to generate a particular, you can generate as many objects as you want with minimal changes. So let's look at that. Okay, function create student. We know what function is. Okay, and the result of the function should be this. Return statement decides what should be the value of the function. So if I just give an empty string, if I execute the function, the entire function statement value will become, undefined null or whatever it is. So instead, I just wanted to write this student. I can move this here and I can return student. Sorry. Now, if I call this 3 times, like let student1 is equals to create student, okay, console.log, I get the student. Okay, if I again run it, if I log it 1, 2, I get it. So now instead of having 10, 20 lines, I just have one function, okay, that is returning the object, okay, a particular object, and I can write it as many times as I want. I can get the objects. Okay, isn't it simple? But the problem is each time I'm only getting Sanjeev. I'm not getting Krishna. I'm not getting, others or anything. Okay. Then let's utilize the parameterized approach for the function. Okay. What is the parameterized function? We saw in the reference types, we saw an opportunity to send a parameter to that particular function. So the inner, the expression that is inside can be manipulated. So what is that? You can send a name parameter. You can say batch, you can send batch parameter. Okay, he's part of 1 or 2 or whatever it is. Now while calling that method, I can send in who is that person that I wanted to create that object for. I need this object for Sanjeev, and the batch number that is in number 2. Okay, and okay, yeah, so on. So but I have to use it here. You don't have to say name like this. So the value coming in is also name, and the value that we wanted to create an object is also name. You don't have to repeat it 2 times. You just can keep it 1 time, and also the same here. Okay, much clean. Okay, and also you know,
Ganesh,
yeah,
I'm sorry. So even if you mention that's not an issue, right? It's
it's
not a
not an
syntax
issue.
issue or something.
It's not a syntax issue. Even if we mention,
Okay.
it's not a syntax issue. The value that is the parameter that is coming in name, and this is also not an issue. You can have it. It will still work. You get all the 4 different objects with 4 different things. So yeah. So now this time around, I see same function creating different, objects. Okay. That's not it, guys. This is just a tip of, iceberg. So we have another approach of creating objects. This is a factory method. We have another way of creating objects, that is constructor functions. So what is a constructor function? Okay, in typical programming world, okay, a constructor function is the function that runs for the first time when you are initializing an object. We write code in Camel and Pascal notation. Okay, example of a Camel case is you start with a small letter, okay, like is job done. Okay, this is a Camel case. But with a Pascal notation, it starts with capital letter. Okay, this is Pascal notation. Okay, when you are writing the constructor function, you always use Pascal notation. Okay, let, okay, sorry, what did I do, man? Function in the Pascal notation. So here we said create new student and we got a new object. So in the case of a constructor function, the way that we define this is different. We don't need the return statement here. Okay, let me say that. Let this dot name is equals to name, same thing, and batch, same thing here. We just take the two things. It's the same job, but we are doing it with the constructor function approach. Okay, name is equals to name, this dot batch is equals to batch, and this dot learn is equals to function. But in this case, instead of calling a function, we actually use the keyword called new. Okay, let student1 is equals to new student. Okay, and if I log the student, and my bad, I haven't said, so undefined, name is undefined, batch is undefined because I haven't set anything. Name is Sanjeev. The first object was that, and batch 2. Same thing we get, like this. So here you don't see a return statement. This is a different approach, guys. This is a factory based approach. Okay, so this is the pure OOP.js. So now you can generate how many number of data sets you want, and you will see them happening. Now in the constructor case, everything is, this particular statement will return a new set of this function. Okay, new instance of the function. So that means same replica of this function, but on this keyword is a reference to this context, and it is setting that variable here. So it is returning a clone of this constructor function. With each time it is cloning, it is actually returning, it is actually storing a different value inside that you send it. So it's quite a different format of creating objects. These can be, so it's not something that once it is created, it is not something concrete, something that is blocked or logged or anything. You can always have this object changed, molded. Okay, these things are dynamic in nature. The objects are dynamic in nature. So what do I mean by that? You can add certain properties. Let me give you that example. That's another benefit of using constructor approaches. You can add this kind of you can delete a particular object. You can say delete student2 dot name. Okay, see, I've added status, I've deleted name, but when I log student, I don't see the name attribute, but I see the status attribute. So this is dynamic in nature. Once they are created, you can change the way you want. Okay, so what is that benefit I'm getting, Ganesh, with the constructor approach is that this dot, okay, assignment is equals to function. Okay, I get to see that assignment is already being rendered into individuals. Once you define it, you can reuse it. Okay, you might ask me, Ganesh, I can do the same thing in factory function. I can simply have one more property like assignment, and I have another function. Yeah, you got it, you are right. But if you log this student to, I'll show you something special happening with this guy. Okay, prototype object. Okay, there is a simple thing called prototype. Okay, with this prototype I can change this guy, and also I can direct it to, I can travel through this through the prototype object, and I can reach here and change that behavior of this function. If I'm sounding so complex, you can find the relation between this guy, this guy, this guy if you have prototype. Okay, you don't have to write a return statement. It doesn't get complicated. Everything will be stored on this. And also you can have a private and public objects in this guy. Okay, like this. So let name, first name, let's say first name is equals to first name, that you're trying to send a first name. Also, if you don't want to send this, expose this first name, now we are able to see name here, right? Okay, this name is already been declared. Okay, sorry, let f name. We cannot have I need to define the f names A or B. Okay, now I don't see the first name f name on these things, right? That's weird. So this is private to this method, but you can use this here. If I say student dot learn, I can see B learning. This is getting logged. So that means these are private variables that are only accessible via this function. So I'm referring this inside the class itself. So it is still available for this function, but if I log that object, it is not publicly available. This is a private way of creating objects. So with the constructor, you get the public private approach. If you wanted to save some information only to be accessible here, you can save that. Anything that is not on this is not a public variable. It is a private variable. Anything that is defined on this, that is a public variable. Document object model. So this is a web API that actually represents the structure, the HTML structure in the body, the web pages or, web documents. So this web API is accessible to JavaScript so that it can, modify or manipulate the elements, and it can change the structure of HTML on the page. So remember, we talked about JavaScript makes web pages alive, and that is how it is possible. That is how is JavaScript is able to do it. So how can what is DOM, and how can JavaScript access is that JavaScript has access to the DOM through the document object. So let me show you that document. So if I log this object does contain the entire page object. If you could see that entire object is logged inside console with this particular statement. But if in our previous object lesson. So we understood that with dot notation we can pretty much move into any object and come out of any object. So same ways, if I put dot, and if I access body, I'm able to access body. That is not just all. So on the document or on each element, there are hundreds of methods that are exposed out there for you to use and change the structure, and there are thousands of properties that are on the elements for you to kind of update and manipulate. So for example, document dot get element by id is one such method that will find a particular element by its id. And if I log demo, so I see null because there's no id on the particular html document with the id of demo. So if I keep this id to demo, I would see that the method is able to select the particular element that has the id of demo. So with this you can clearly find this method will clearly help you to find a particular element. And okay, you found that element, what can you do? So I can actually pretty much access any property of that item element. So like style dot color, okay, I can change it to red, and as soon as that line is executed, the color is changed to red. And maybe I can change the font size as well. But here I'm updating the style object. All the css properties and values will be stored inside the style object of this particular element. So dot font size to set it to 13 pixels. So I'm still using the values as the css values, but I'm only as replacing the value that was previously there. So this got small, but each time I should not have to call the same method, because once I call it let lm and store this and refer that lm, I can pretty much reuse this same variable, because I already got the reference of that element once. I don't have to run it again and again. So this is the reference of that particular element. So if I log it, you will be able to see it. Okay, now I got the reference of that element. If you could see the next two lines that were kind of changing the font color and font size, and you could see that particular properties being added to the element. So that's how you can manipulate the element. That's not the only way that you can manipulate the element. You can add certain elements, you can remove certain elements, you can add behavior to that element, you can add event listeners, like once clicked, you want to know about if the element is clicked, you can do that. But for now, to understand more about the DOM access, let's try to build a to-do application with whatever the things that we have discussed till this point. Okay, so let me for to do application, I need an input text, type text, okay, placeholder. I'm creating a UI now. Enter to do item, and as of now I know I can access the item by ID, so that I'll give an ID, new to do, and I need a button dot set. I can click and save, input maybe button, add. Okay, if I save it, okay, good, I got that. Two things, I need to show the list of items. I'll kind of say ul li into 4 and new item. I see, oh no, li into 4. Save it. So I got this to do items. So what do I want to achieve is, as soon as I enter, I zoom this application, this page to 250%. So you might be seeing it kind of zoomed up and very big, but if you try it in your local machine, you would see something like this, small. But for the tutorial purposes, I just zoomed a bit. It's still looking nice. So I just don't need these dummy items, but let's have our database ready where to do items. I need these items to come from this array. Maybe, well, let's not complex things, let's keep it very simple. Okay, and let's not have any items here. Okay, let's id to do container. Okay, we have the UI ready, we have the list container already, we have the new the text input that can give me the entered value, and a button that I can that I need to listen on the click event and then populate that in the list. So that's what I wanted to. So let's first select the items first. So let's first select the text element and then button and then the UL container. So we know already, let to do container is equals to document dot get element by id. We have, let's copy the item, new to do container, and let's do the same for the button. btn lm, and let's do it for the input t input lm, and replace this values, new to do, and we don't have an ID for this button, but we don't need the button to be selected, we just need something different for the button. So let's not select the button. So now we need a function that will save the item. Okay, function save to do. Okay, why I need a function? I need this function to run as many times as I clicked this button so that I can add the input items. So to do a function again and again, to do a particular action again and again, we need functions. That is obvious. So okay, so now let's console log this statement here. Save works. Okay, when do we want this save to be triggered? We need this save to be triggered whenever the button is clicked. So in HTML we have a way to add a click to that button, that is on click is the attribute. On the onClick attribute, if you mention the function name from JavaScript, okay, copy this, go to the HTML. If I come here and click, the number of times I click, it is logging the same statement. That means the function is executing as I click on this button. That's good. All I have to do is now, whenever this function is executing, I have to come here and pick up the value and put it inside container. So I know the input element reference that is already here. So I can say input element dot the value. So in an input element, the text we entered will be stored in the property called value. So if I save this, if I click, so now I haven't entered anything because it is logging null. And if I enter something, I'm able to get the update that I've made to that input. Okay, sample text. Okay, I'm able to get the data that is entered into the field. Now next thing is I have to do is create a li element and push into the UL container, because I need the li items dynamically appended to this container so that it will be displayed on the list on the UI. How can I do that? You can create elements dynamically in JavaScript, so using the document API or DOM API. So let's try that. Let list item is equals to document dot create element is the function that will help you to create element, and you have to give the type of the tag that you want to create, okay, the element type that you want to create. And then you want to create an element you created, you needed to have the element, this value, okay, that you have picked up from the input element. You created a li element, you stored the HTML inside the li element like this with inner HTML property. The value will go into the list element. And finally, let's try to log this list element. Console log. Okay, as soon as I click it, I'm getting a li element, but with a dummy value, with no value inside it, because there is a null. There's no value in the input element. But why should we do this? Okay, so let's write a good logic that we will stop the empty saves when we click on this button. So what is that logic? Whenever I click on this button, this function is executing, but before executing the rest of the lines, I need to put a check, okay, ternary operator again. If input value, if the input value is null, okay, then you just return the function. You just want to stop that method. So that's not null, that's misspelled null. So if I click, it's still going, but because it's not null that is coming, it's an empty string for the first time that it is coming. That's good. So as soon as I'm clicking, it's matching this expression. As soon as this is matching, the return statement is cancelling that function execution to move forward, and then I'm not able to render this. But if I have some value that is not equal to this empty string, now I'm able to get the li element. But this is not where you want your li elements to come. You want these li elements on the HTML screen. How can you do that? Okay, where do you want it? I need that on those items to be appended to the UL, that is the ID to do container. We already selected that item here on top, saying to do container, and you refer that to do container, and you will call a method called append child. Okay, this method will help you to append a child item to that particular container. So that makes that li item will be added to as child to this, like this. Okay, like this. So let's do that. Let's try our luck. Okay, new item, and if I add it, oh, I got it. Okay, I'm able to create as many items as I want, but I'm not resetting this thing. So what can we do? We can simply call this input. We can write this element. If I'm able to successfully append the list item, I can set this input value to null. As soon as I enter, this becomes null, because I'm able to you can not only get the value, but you can also set the value with the same reference that we have here. Okay, so this is very basic example that how can you access or manipulate the DOM, and how can you build applications with that interface with HTML. We will dig deeper into this API of document object model in the future videos. Synchronous and asynchronous. So these are all the two ways that a code can execute, or a request can be processed. What is a request? Let's say you're trying to book a phone on Amazon, okay, and you wanted to see that phone, and you go to the page where phone information is available. So you're requesting the server that send me the all information on this particular model, so that images, videos, and everything being rendered and sent back to you, so that you can look at that information and take a call and buy that phone. Okay, that is a request. Anything that you want to consume on the internet, is a request and response. That's the protocol. Why do we need a protocol? The world doesn't function without a protocol. Okay, you have a protocol for your home. You set them not your visitors to come on only weekends because weekdays you're busy. So there's a protocol for you. Okay, so for everybody has a protocol. Everything has a protocol, and internet is also a protocol. So that the protocol is HTTP HTTP, right? Hypertext Transfer Protocol. So what this protocol says is the client should be secured. Okay, that means your machine, your mobile, your laptop, the main intention of that HTTP protocol is to keep you secured from internet, because internet is, you know, a lot of things. So you cannot comprehend to you cannot try to comprehend internet. Okay, there are so many things going on internet, and you should be secure out of every malicious connection to your website, because you are also connected to internet. So HTTP or internet have created certain protocols like FTP, file transfer protocol, HTTP like hypertext transfer protocol, and HTTP protocol is being widely used in browsers and internet browsers, serving browsers. So whenever you're accessing that website, you can access that website, but that website cannot access your file system, your machine controls, or it cannot if some website is able to take control of your website, imagine how scary it would be. Of course there are certain things are allowed, like screen sharing, video recording, accessing your mic, but again that is on discretion of the user. The user should allow whether you want to access or not. So enough of that theory. So the thing that we are here to understand is the big difference between synchronous programming and asynchronous programming. Here I have a restaurant. Okay, I have almost, how many tables I have? I have 5 tables. I know I play same character, bear with me. And I request you to imagine those are all the different individuals. Okay, just assume they are all different individuals. I think it's a restaurant for dates. This restaurant has 5 tables, 10 customers, and every customer is expecting to be visited by a waiter first. So now 5 tables, 3 waiters. So these people have all of them called for waiter, and it's 8 o'clock, time is on, everybody is here. Now this waiter comes to this guy, this waiter comes to this table, and this waiter comes to this table and takes that order and goes back to the kitchen and places the order. Okay, and now at this point of time, if the kitchen is preparing that orders, waiters are waiting for that order to be prepared so that they can serve to these tables and move on to the next 2 tables. Okay, that is synchronous behavior. That means these waiters have given instruction to serve a table at a given point of time. Okay, until their request is fulfilled, they are not supposed to do any other operation. So that is synchronous way of handling a restaurant. Is it the best way, guys? It is not fair, letting them wait for so long until they were eating. What could be the possible solution for this problem? They can place the order and say the kitchen, hey, once the order is ready, call me back. I'm moving on to the next table. Okay, I don't want to wait here. Give me a call back. I'll tell you that this is the table number, this is the food order, and give me a call back when it is done. So let me give you an example of synchronous programming. Okay, let me create. Okay, function 1, function 2, function 3. I have 3 functions that do 3 different. Just you back?
Yes.
Yeah, I have 3 functions. Okay, they're doing 3 different operations, and just because I declared a function, that doesn't mean that I have called the function. Remember, declaring a function is the first step, but you need to call that function whenever you need it. Okay, so I'm calling now F1, after that F2, After that, F2 and F3. Okay. I may not be able to see anything on the console because I haven't logged anything. To understand, how the flow is executing, let me log something out of this methods. Okay. Console.log from 1 and then 2 and 3. Okay. 1, 2, 3. The sequential order. It is going inside that function. Okay. It is going inside that function. Okay. And doing that operation. And once the operation is done, it is moving on to the second one. That's why you see that sequence, logging sequence. Okay. If I call the third one first, 3, 1, 2. So it is following a sequence that you have created. Okay. So how can you say, JavaScript is asynchronous? Okay. You can make your program asynchronous. Okay. Let me do that. Let me give you a try. Okay. On the second, now I'm getting 1, 2, 3. That is a sequential order. Okay. I'm saying set time out. Okay. Set time out a method. Okay. Set time out is a method that will trigger with a delay. Okay. If you need something to happen with a delay of few seconds, because if I click the button, I need the user to wait for you might see, if you are using Gmail, you might see sometimes you might see that retrying in 3 to 1 seconds. Like if there is an internet disconnect, if you are using Gmail and internet got disconnected, Gmail tries to do retry for the internet in a interval level. I have seen it. If you have not seen it, not a problem. Set timeout is a method. Set timeout is a method that will execute another function. Okay, so set timeout is a method that will call a function with a delay. So again, I'm creating a arrow function. Inside that function, I'm creating another function, and I'm setting a delay of 1 second. So 1000 nanoseconds, okay, is 1 second in JavaScript. You can measure the time in nanoseconds in JavaScript. So I'm saying set a timeout for 1 second, that is 1000 nanoseconds, and call this method. So what do you want me to call? This is what you want to call it. And you keep that operation that you wanted to perform. You wanted to log from 2. Now, if you go back, see, there's a delay. So let me put a 3 seconds delay. 1 and 3 got logged, but 2 has logged after 2 seconds. But was it waiting? Because the set timeout is in F2. Okay, I called F2 here. Was it waiting until the set timeout completing? No, it was not waiting. It went on to execute 3. That is the reason you see 1, 3 first and 2 later. I put a set timeout in F2. F1, I called F2. There is a set timeout. I really don't want to wait for 3 seconds here. So that's the behavior of asynchronous. It is not waiting for this to complete, but it is moving on to third. But once the 3 seconds is complete, JavaScript is going back to this method and executing it. So this is a callback. This is a callback method, calling back, like after 3 seconds. This is the thing that I want you to do. So I'm doing it. JavaScript is doing that. That is asynchronous programming. So here, these orders are pretty ready, like instantaneously ready. So I put them. They asked for ice cream. Ice cream is right in the fridge, and I've given 1 and 3 the ice cream. But 2 has asked for maybe a burrito. Burrito is not actually made already, or a pizza. It needs to be cooked and baked and everything. And then I'm coming back, so I can come back and deliver the third word. That is asynchronous. You can JavaScript promise is an object representing eventual completion or failure of a asynchronous operation. Asynchronous operation, let's just say that I have created a set timeout for 5 seconds and I'm performing a calculation inside, and I don't know if that calculation will actually a success or a failure. So I need to decide, I need to send two callbacks. If it is successful, you call this function. If it is failure, you call this function. So to do that, the modern way of doing it in JavaScript is with the promise object. So let's see an example. So this is how you create a promise. For that promise, what you need to do, you need to pass in a function. Okay, that is executor. This executor function will request you to resolve and reject are the two parameters that it will expect. And if there is an operation to compare something, okay, get flowers, okay, where shop is open is equals to false. Okay, shop is not open. So this is see guys, I just give preparing this input here in this file itself, but usually these methods will be present on a different application itself. Okay, different application, because if there is an application like I'm creating an application to talk to a flower store or a bouquet store and getting back that input, getting back that flowers for her, then this will be somewhere else, right? So for now I'm keeping it here. Okay, so now I need to go to that go to that flower shop or bouquet shop, and it will take me some time. What time it will take? It will take me 5 seconds. It will take me 5 seconds to go there. Okay, I'm just talking as if I'm telling you a story. I'm telling you a story. Okay, look at the code along with my story. So don't ignore any of it. Look at the code and understand my story. I need 5 seconds of time to go there. Okay, I need this update. Okay, whether you can give me that file, you can give me the flowers or not, as soon as you are at the store, not while coming back. Okay, I can guide you to do something else. Okay, you understood, right? So after 5 seconds, I reach that store and I am checking if the store is open is equals to true, or I can simply put it like this, and this will also expect the statement to be true. And flower stock should also be good. Then you need to resolve that request. Then only you need to resolve that request. If anything out of these two things are not true, that means if the shop is open, the flowers are not in stock, you cannot promise that you cannot complete that request. So you need to, so either of it is the shop is closed or the stock is not there, you need to reject it. Okay, so this is my operation, get flowers. Now there are two methods to this. Now this is a promise. Okay, the promise can return two things, then and catch. Okay, the then method will again have first parameter is a resolve. Resolve means, okay, this is, so this is going to be this, and this is going to be, okay. So I created a promise and I am expecting two callbacks. Okay, this is a callback. Remember, kitchen should call you when it is ready or not. Okay, I'm sending, this method will be called if the request is resolved. If that is true, this method will be called if the request is not able to resolve. So that is this, just like sending another parameter for function. So don't get confused, don't make things complex. So this is that. Okay, now success, I'll get flowers. I am getting flowers. Honey, it's not my fault. Okay, it's not truly, it's not his fault. Okay, the program is written, because Shop, either the shop is closed or the flower is not in stock. Let us go and see this promise. What is happening? Honey, it's not. Sorry. I don't even know how to say sorry. It's hard for me to say my fault. Okay. 5 seconds. Wait for 5 seconds. You were at the store. It says it's not my fault. So was it waiting? Let me put a console log here. See, it's not waiting for this to resolve, request or resolve here. Okay. It has assigned certain callbacks to that promise and said, yeah, you just carry on. You know, I've assigned these two things. These guys will let me know, will let me know when it is request resolved or rejected, but I'm still going to cook it. So my JavaScript is cooking. Now it's cooking. It continues to cook. It doesn't stop. It's actually, but after 5 seconds, I'm also getting that information. Honey, it's not my fault. Well, let me open the store. True. Now the statement is true. Okay, because these two are true here. Now I'm calling the resolve method. If something goes wrong with this method, okay, if something goes wrong with this method, you can actually catch that. Okay, so let me emulate that too. Okay, you know, we can generate Java, you know that. Okay,
yes,
after 5 seconds, instead of request is earning, I'm actually throwing. So there is a bully on the road. Okay, it's not allowing me to. Okay, see, I can send some information while resolving whatever I send from here. I will be able to get that response here. So fetch API, simply you give a file, you fetch, and this will return a promise. You know promise. You know what to do with promise. What do you do with promise? You call it then, and you send a function to accept the response. Okay, and then you call it response.json, and then this will also response will convert. You're trying to convert that response into JSON, and that will also render a promise, and you're saying then. So if this file is not found, you can put a comma and listen on the failure events, and you will get to see the failed event. These are the different methods. This is the actual fetch API. You say fetch method. Now let me go to a website called placeholder API. This guy has already built a backend for us to use. Okay, see, if I run this script, it gives me a response like this. So this guy has built a backend on this URL. With this URL, we can access the backend. Okay, let me go to the. I like to-dos ones. Okay, so these are all the to-dos that he saved on the server. So I need these to-dos to my UI. Okay, so he created a backend for us to use. Okay, so we will consume this URL. We will access this URL in our website, and let us try to get this data to our file. Okay, so this is the path. So he has already given a way to access in JavaScript. See, fetch API, give that URL, and you say this dot response and this dot response.json. Okay, so let me try that in different steps. This is a URL for all the users database. Okay, JSON placeholder is a backend, dummy backend. We can create in future. We can create a backend like this, a server like this, but I don't want to access the users list, but I want to access the to-dos list. So I need to change the URL to to-dos. So this is where my URL exists. Let me click this. Yeah, I'm going to that particular data. Now fetch. Okay, what is the fetch? Where do I need to go? You need to go here and fetch the data, and then has two things to do. Okay, first thing, unfulfilled, on rejected. Okay, the comma, second input is on rejected, first input is so if it is resolved, so basically this fetch API will give you return. You know what is return statement? If I say return, this function value will become that. So this fetch API will go and fetch that and return an API. Okay, so return a promise API. So I'm able to access then if it is successful, okay, console.log response res. You can just say response res or anything. You can name it whatever you want. Okay, you can say data or response or anything. Okay, then you can, second thing is for rejection. Why got rejection? So error, this there can be any error, so I need to receive the error here. So I can console.log error. So if I save this, okay, I don't need this. So let me open that in a light server. Let me go to console and I'm able to see a response. I'm able to log a response. What is this response is? This response is a HTTP request itself. Okay, this is not a data. This is logging the request itself, the entire request. This is the URL, and this is that, and this is body. This is a read stream. So this is, there is no data here. That the data that I wanted to receive, that is not here. Okay, so how to do that? Okay, in the prototype there is a function called JSON. Okay, this JSON method will convert that response that it is received in a buffer, okay, in a blob or something, to so response.json. If I call this function, so this is actually, this response is also rendering me a promise. See, fulfilled function, array of 200 items are there. So again, I will say dot then data. Here I will get the data. Console log dot data. Save. See, 200 to-dos have come in the form of array. So if you're simply returning one statement, you don't have to keep the flower braces. You can just say accept that response. This is still an arrow function. That is a beauty of arrow function. You're sending that response and you're sending out response.json. So till here, again, response.json will return a promise, and I'm again subscribing that, and that promise will give me data. I can wait for it to resolve. I can say await, and I don't have to put a then. I can simply say const response is equals to await fetch. So this await keyword will resolve that, will wait until this is resolved, and the result, you don't have to write then or that or this or that. You don't have to write everything. It will simply resolve this request and keeps that response and keeps it here. Simply, that is the thing. And then you can const data and again await for, write an await. Okay, and you can say respond.json, because JSON was also going to return you a promise. So you need to remember, JSON was also going to give you a promise. So you're asking, wait for that response of JSON function, and then pull the data. And then now you take that data and put it in. Okay, to reduce one more line, I can save it right here itself. Okay, now you don't have need for these things. Now finally, you can do a for. This looks simple, but it is costly. Let me explain why. If you are using an await keyword, you have to put a async keyword before that function. Your function should be asynchronous, but your you should be wait for that response. Now you can find, see, this is last. Node.js is a runtime environment. As I said in the yesterday's session, Node.js, you download the Node.js and you install the Node.js, and JavaScript runtime environment is in your local machine. So node array dot, there's nothing in the array.js. So let's go ahead and create something. Where my array. So what is an array? So remember the train analogy where you have different compartments and each compartment will hold different values. Okay, rather than values, hold different types of items in it. Sometimes it's people, sometimes it's good. So how do we, so syntax to create an array is this. You can create arrays or strings, numbers with this syntax. Just a square box, and you can put a string in the first position. Okay, and so this is a data set. Why this is a data set? This belongs to a certain class. So you need to organize a certain class of data into one particular container. So this way you get to move your data as you want. So organizing data is the one way of one purpose of arrays. Just that organizing data works. Is it okay? Then yeah, it works, because entire data is good. If I ever wanted to know who are all there in my class, I can simply console log it and I know that. That is good. And you can operate on this array, right, to remove some elements, to add some elements, or you can operate on this array, but the class remains the same. The set remains the same. So that's how you should look at it. There are different ways that you can control your data with. Okay, if this is the array items, you can splice out and take some of the arrays, like console.log. If I wanted to take a certain piece of this array, okay, for some purposes. So I just wanted to log a trainer out of this class. I just want a trainer, not the students. So where is the trainer now in this array? It is the first position. Trainer is on the first position. If I want it, how do I access it? You have to put square braces. So square braces 0. So as I said, we are selecting one item from the chocolate box that is already available. So the position of these items will change 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. But what is the length of it? Are like this: 0, 1, 2, 3, 4, 5. What is the length of it? Array has 5 positions until 5, but the items are 6. Let me show that. How do you know that? How do you know the length of the array? So you can log it like this. And how do you retrieve one item from that array? You have to put a square brace or position. Mention the position there. So 0 position is Ganesh, 1 is Kranti. How do I put an element to this? Okay, how do I put an element to this? So we're missing Nichita, and we just wanted to push Nichita into, and we have the length. So the return value of this item is 7, but I don't want to log the return value, but just want to log before this and after this. Here, so before the push statement, it was this is the state, and then we have Nichita end. So if I wanted to remove particular element, you would say the method that you need to use is pop. Okay, first this, and then Nichita added, then pop is executed. Pop removed the last element. That is Nichita. If I wanted to add the same thing or add Nichita to the front of the class, I'd say unshift and again. So initially Nichita was not on the first item, that you can now see her in the first place. So you can do the same. You don't have to specify anything here. You can just say shift. If you hit this method, the first item will be removed. So first Nichita was there, then shift is executed, and then Nichita was removed. So the elements kind of unshift, adds, shifts, removes the first element. Push and pop removes the last, pop removes the last element, and push adds at the end. Unshift adds in the front, and shift removes from the front. So these are pretty basic methods that you can do. Okay, the next method is array.concat, like concat, not contact. Concat, I can say, I can add two arrays. I can add two arrays from this group. So this is one array. I'm just not adding one element. I'm adding an entire array to this array. Now if I console log, I don't see two arrays, but with Nichita in it. Okay. Okay, this creates a new array. You have to save it into new array. See, Nichita is at the end. Okay, it does not add on this particular array. This will not change this array, but this itself creates a new array. It will contact this array and this array, both of them. It will concatenate and gives you a new array. So you have to store it into a new array. Maybe you can say, where is this? Maybe if I log a full class, I get all the list in the class. Yeah. So how do I, divide an array? So I might sometimes see a need to divide an array. Okay. You can say split, splice. So splice is nothing but, you split the element. So first argument goes the start number, which from where you want to slice me up, like take a piece out of array. So I just want the one trainer out of the system to be extracted. How many trainers are there? The trainer is on 0th index. And how many trainers are there? Only one trainer. So one position. So if I hit this, I get that one particular item extracted out. If you ever wanted to replace the same item, okay, let's say I just don't want Ganesh to be as a trainer. I want somebody else to be for one session or so. So I can replace Santosh. So now, if I console log the entire array again, some methods directly manipulate the source array. Some method, they does not change the existing array. So if you see, I just wanted to splice out 0th index just to pick one item, that is Ganesh, and the third operator is the in this place. So I'm saying select the 0th index, remove one item. This is Ganesh, so not two items. If I wanted to remove two items, and then the third parameter is the parameter that needs to be inserted in the place of that removed instance. So now you could see Ganesh was removed, and in the place of Ganesh, Santosh is coming. So if you are building your to-do notes, if you wanted to remove something, you could simply use splice. So when I click the button, a delete button on a node, I can find that 0, 1, 2, 3 the index and put one, and you can remove that one particular item, and you can repaint your UI. So you can remove and replace certain elements with this method. Any questions so far? Yeah.
Okay. Can we use a string instead of the position of the string of the array? in this splice?
In the splice, you only supposed to use a position. Splice will only take a position. Start number. So this is the syntax that it expects. Anything that you send here will not work. Okay, it expects a number and it expects the delete count as numbers. So where do you want me to start? From this point onwards, how many items you want to delete? This is the count of the items that I want to delete. So that's the math here. It's defined. This method is defined. You cannot change that. So if you hover this method, you'll get that help snippet. So it will only take numbers as of now. Hope that is clear.
Yeah.
Any method you take, you just go. It gives you that syntax, how it should work. Array dot contact and some of the array items. That's it. This
if
is
we
what,
if we give 0, 2, Santosh,
it will remove 2 elements
and add 1 element. That's it.
Yeah.
Okay.
If you do it like this, Kranti was also gone. So it started from Santosh, Karthik, 7. This remove 2 elements. If I put 2, it remove 2 elements. And I can add multiple elements here like this. See, I can add an array in here on that position, because array position can have anything, right? Okay, I can replace that one particular, I can reinsert some of the values. And if I send it this as a third parameter, everything will be added there. If I wanted to, okay, we have this solution. I first initialization, then condition, and then increment. This is the syntax of, okay, I want this for loop to until the array position, the I should be less than the length of that particular array, because position start from 0, the length is 6, but array positions are 5. So this condition works. So now I can say I is changing a number each time. So I can simply put, for the first time I is 0, second time I is 1, third time I is 2, 3, 4. So I runs till I is 5. So I get to log all the elements. Okay, if I try this, yes, I'm getting. So I can simply log like this. So something like this. So each iteration I is changing, and each iteration this is constant, it is not changing, but class of I, so when it is 0, class kibble of 0 is Ganesh, 1 is Kranti, 3 is Karthik, so on and so forth. It will log entire thing until the length is met. Okay, this is how I logged all the items in the array. Okay, if I wanted to push these into an inner HTML, I can say some equals to this. This will not execute in the local, but I can simply do this, right? I can put this text in an inner HTML. So I get all the contents getting logged, getting inserted into. Okay, you can do the same with for each. Okay, but this time enclose, it will not only give you, so you don't need to write a for loop to go through in each array. So okay, if you see for each, the argument it says is the callback function. It will take a function as an argument, and this function each time, so it will call that method. Let's say for each is the method, so it is expecting a callback. So I'll say callback, okay, or I can say, and this is the method. Okay, this is the callback method. Okay, this method is going to each iteration for the, so it's going to call this method for as many times that this array has the items. So if it has 3 items, this method will be called 3 times. So this This function will be called 3 times. Each time it is calling, it will send a value as a first item, index as a second item, and entire array as a third item. So let me look at it. So I'll just say, I'll use a function. I'll not create a new function. So each time it is calling that. So if there are 6 items, it will call this function 6 times. Okay. And each time it is calling the function, it will send value, index, and entire array. Let me log these items. Console.log b comma. If you are confused now, you will be confused for the entire session. So don't take a chance. Ask me questions. Here, let me show you the output. You see the output? The for each method responsibility is to call one function number of times that is equal to the count in that array. If there are 6 items, it will call the same function 6 times. So if I move this function, see, let's look at it like this. Okay, I'll give this as a reference. So there is a method I have created, a function that I created, and I give that function reference here. And it will call that function and send you the values to work with. Okay. Any question? You need to understand this particular snippet very clearly. We'll call this method. Okay. If you give a name, it will look for that one particular function, calls as many times. So we call this as a callback function. It will call this given callback function, equivalent to the items in that array. If it is one item, it will only call the method once, like you see, like this. So instead of writing a big loop, you can just say for each, and for each will be acting like a loop to the number of items, and it will call a function and send these variables. Okay, value as a first operator, index as a second, first parameter, index as a second parameter, third parameter. I'll take a pause. Let me know if you have any confusion. The silence is yes, guys. Silence is a answer.
We can use it in any like multiple arrays. Looping is a function. We can use it multiple times in a multiple.
Yes, no matter what is there in the array. For each is going to be so for each will not work if you have, if you have an array inside an array. Okay, so it will not run three times one position. So this parent array, if you are writing for each on this array, so for this array this is only one position, no matter if it is array inside or something, anything, let it be anything. Okay, it will only run once, because for this main array this is one item. Okay, for this array this is one item. Even if it is another array, you have to write for each on this array again to iterate through 2 times. So I hope I answered your question, Pran.
Yeah.
Okay, now what you can do with this method, I don't have a clue. You can do anything you want. So you don't have to specify it, function for each somewhere, function somewhere. You can simply use a function keyword, and you don't have to define it somewhere else. Define it here, value first, increment first, second. Okay, and then you can call the function, and you can use this value and index and array and log the entire array if you want. So you don't have to write a for loop for this. So that's the kind of thing. So you can instead use a fat arrow function. What is a fat arrow function? It is just another function, but it will not syntactically different, but functionally the same. You don't have to. So basically, function, this is a function statement with a name to it. Okay, are same, guys. This and this are same. You don't have to So this statement and this statement same. This will also give you understanding, and this will also give you same function. This is a function and this is also a function. Syntactically they are different. This is called factor of functions. Okay, I'm just using the same thing. So it's the same thing if I say function and name, braces and open braces, but this is also the similar. It is much simpler way of creating a function available from ES6 version. Before that, if you're running in old browsers, this will give an issue, but in all the modern browsers, this function will work. You can simply log through. Oh my god, I removed everything from this class. So let me go to a point where I have lots of items in that. Okay, let me replace everything. I get all the values. Nice and good. So let me comment this out. So it's just to iterate through the items. Okay, so now it's time to filter or find items in an array. It's sometimes you need to know what is there in the array. Okay, is that particular item there in that array or not? So if it is there, where it is, if it is if I have to avoid the hassle of finding if it check whether it is there or not, or if there is, what is the index of it, you can simply find it. So you can do that operation. Console.log I say dot index of just, if I say like this, it will loop through that array and give me that index that where just is 0, 1, 2 and 3rd. So this is where it is. It is giving me that index. So it is finding for me, it is going through that array and finding that index and giving me the index. Okay, I can also check if that particular item in the array exists or not. Includes, like we have seen yesterday. Okay, it is at the 3rd position, and second statements let me know if it includes. It is includes. So if I say turn and save it, it will say false. Okay, because this is again, don't get confused guys, this is again just only I changed the second statement. This is false because only just there, just turner was not there. So if it includes or not, no, it does not include. If I remove, if I only look for just, yes, just is there. Okay, so I can also find an array. I can also find an array, and there's a find method too that you can search through it. So it's a simply shortcut of these both items. Okay, so any questions so far?
No.
Yeah, bro. Hello.
Yeah.
Bro, can you find the
Sorry, within an array.
yeah?
I don't get.
If you are using multiple arrays within an array, can we find the position? I mean, if you are using an array, complete set of array within an array, can we find that particular within array position?
So these are all the items in my array. Okay.
Or create another array in that particular array.
So okay. So now let me create this. Okay.
And replace one string with another number or boolean.
Okay.
And now find that particular position or length of that particular
So
object.
yeah, it only works. The find methods only works on the first level. So we call. So this is one array item. If you consider this as one array item. Okay. This is 1, 2. If this third item have. So what I'm saying is, the find or any method that I'm explaining, it will only works in a linear mode for the top level only. If there is another array inside this array, okay, you have to write the same method for this array. So you have to find the item in that array again. So if you already know that it exists in the child array, you have to write it like this. Main array of 3 dot find. not main array dot find, main array of 0, 1, 2, 2 dot find. So let me give you how that works. Let me give you. So yeah, that's when data structures coming to. So if you DS and algorithms is another session. So if you, okay, if you, we were just saying, can I find it now? I am surprised. I'm genuinely surprised, guys. This shouldn't say just is in the method because this is in other array, but it is able to find. I'm genuinely shocked because includes method should look for. So let me change it like this. This is another array. Yeah. I think I probably not saved that. Yeah, I haven't saved the file. Okay, I haven't saved the file. So I was kind of thought I saved the file. So if it is inside an array, okay, array, array inside an array, it will only search for the top level item. This is false because it is inside an array. If you want this statement to be true, what you could do 0, 1, 2, select the second item and then check it's true because now it is searching in this array only. Instead of searching, it will only search the top first level. If there are 2, 3 levels in that array, it will only search the top first level. It will not go to the next level. Hope that is clear.
Yeah.
If you want, you can write for each. So what you should do, if you want to search in 2 arrays, you can do it like this. So this is again, this will become dot for each function and put v here, v if type of v. Okay, then again v dot includes. Yes, just trying to find, and you also need to check the top level. So this is, so this item will check the this item will check here. This item, this line will check if it is type of v. I'm reiterating through, whenever I hit an array, it will check inside that array, child array. So I'm going through each. So this is kind of goes in a direction of algorithms, data structures, but we don't want to go there right away. My thumbs up. Ravi, someone, are you there? Okay, then we have, this is also here. So let's start. So through the array methods, and the next set of items we have for today is, I think this time around I don't want to waste any time. So we should have to look at data object and multiple, how to work with multiple files. Okay, let me go back to arrays file. Okay, now map and filter are the most used methods for array. These are top rated arrays. So why these are operated means, so you can, map kind of iterates through that array and find the array, returns the array items only. So basically filter is to, so filter, as the name suggests, it is used to filter an array. So how do you filter an array? So dot, okay, look at the syntax of that array. So you have to pass in a predicate, like a function. So a predicate function, a function that accepts up to 3 arguments. The filter method calls to predicate the function one time for each element in an array. So this predicate function will expect a return false or true. So if you return false, so that item will be removed from that array. If you return true, that item will be left in that array. So simply like this, same like for loop, part arrow function. Okay, this will make the syntax lighter. So I'm using that. As I said, same like for each, you get the first item as value, second item as index, but you don't have to take everything. You can actually take whatever you want. I only concerned about value and I will only take that. Okay, So I will save the value, value that is coming out of this method into a new array. Now I'm saying, so I just want to filter out this array. What is the filter? Okay, the value dot length greater than, okay, you have to return the value. Okay, return means this function value will be true or false. That is the only case, right? If value, what is the value? For each iteration, this predicate method will be called. So predicate method will each time take one value. First time it will take one value, Ganesh. Ganesh dot length is somewhere around 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, and 6. So length is 6. It's definitely greater than 4. What is the value of this? This is true. So return will be true. The entire method value will become, now if this value is true, Ganesh will be in the array. If this value is false, this item will be removed. That one particular item will be removed from that array. So in the case of Jess and Ravi, it is true because length is not greater than 4. It is length is equal to 4. So this statement will become false. Let us see what is the value of new array. Here, no dot array.js, have to execute proper file. Now you see the elements, the value, the element length. This is a string. This string does have a length, right? Yesterday we have seen strings does have a length. Each character is occupying a position, and now we have 4 length. The length is 4. So 4 length is not definitely greater than 4. That is means false. So this entire predicate method value become, now if it is false, the item will be excluded in the result, and result is being stored into a new array. A new array will not have these items. So you might have seen, okay, in the Myntra side, we said, Anarkali, we excluded from Anarkali. So what happens, like, let us say that, let us replicate that here. Let us not steal this method. Each item is a object. What is the object? It is, so haven't we seen objects? I don't think we've seen objects.
No.
Let me, I should have gone over object. I'll explain you object. So in that case, I'll go with this. Anarkali 1. Okay. So I have 3 anar, let's say anar, 3 anars, and maybe shirts. Okay. Okay. I have 2 t-shirts. So I have 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay. So now this is not dresses or garments. Now garments array. What is the filter condition? Okay. Only take anarkali. Okay. Value equal to. Okay. Only take anarkali. Whatever is anar, you only keep that. Rest of the things you remove. So only anar is present. So if I only want shirts, I should check only set to true for the shirts. So if the value, each item, it is iterating through this predicate method or function is called once for each value, and the value is being sent to that function. Now this guy is checking whether it is shirt or not. If this is shirt, this will be true. So whatever is true will be passed on to the new array. Whatever is false will be excluded from that list. So same thing happening. Okay. And you can extend this condition like this. Okay. Let it be shirts or t-shirts. I just want shirt or t-shirt. I explained yesterday, our statement, the entire statement becomes true if either of it is true. So if it is shirt, the entire statement will become true, and hence the entire function value be true. If this side is true, entire function is true. If this side is true, entire function is true. So it will keep shirts and t-shirts and exclude anarkalis. Let's test that. So I have shirts and t-shirts, and I have removed all these items with ease. Is this filter method clear now? or any challenges. Assume this is your database array for UI. So you always perform on your source database and add it into a new array that you can use it on UI. So this is used in UI. So each time, so garments is not there. Now it is database array. Reason I'm getting an error. Okay, console. So this is how I get issues. See, if I only want anarkali, if I want anarkalis also, I can simply add everything will be given. Nothing is excluded now. Everything is there. So that is how you use filter method. Map is completely a different thing. Okay. Map is used. So it will call the function for each element of the array and returns the array of results. Okay, it will return, I mean, it is same like filter. So the result will be, how do I say, how do I differentiate map between, okay, so let me do it like, so I want to know database dot map, and now same syntax. If you know for each, you probably understood everything, value, and I can value. So not just manipulate it, I can return a value. So it doesn't matter if you return true or false. If you are using map, it doesn't matter. If you mainly map is used to, so if my shape is like Ganesh, if I use map, my face will become Ramesh, some person else. So I can transpose the array. So if I was explained objects prior to this, I would have make sense, but I can change the array. So that's the main intention of the array. So now console.log, sorry, const or var new array. So the map method will give me an array of the lengths of the particular items. So when I console log this, I will see the lengths in the thing. Anar is 4 characters length. 4, first element has 4 items, second 4, third 4, fifth 4, 6, and next item is 6 characters. Next items have 2 items have 7 characters, and some of them have 4 characters. I'm getting a completely new array, irrespective of what I'm returning, true or false or whatever it is. I'm completely getting a new array out of the same array. Okay, I can join that some of the information like this. I'm concatenating of, see, the length of anar is 4. The length of anar is 4. The length of shirt is 6. So I'm getting a new array. I'm using the same array, but I am transforming that array. In the place of this value will come. In the place of this value will come.